Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome, Arvanauts. Welcome, everybody, to a Tuesday stream. It is Tuesday, March 8th, 2022, in the year of our Lord, etc., etc., and I hope everyone is doing well and is looking forward to day 35 of Adventures in Middle-earth, Erebor Adventures, as we finally get back in the saddle. We were just talking about this off-stream in the green room that... it's been a little while for a variety of reasons, and it's been a bit, but we are back and we're ready to go and we're fired up, and I hope you folks are ready to go as well with us as we continue with Erebor Adventures in the segment of the adventure that we call Sleeping Dragons Lie. Before we go any further, just a couple of reminders about ways to support us here on the channel. If you haven't done so already, please follow the channel. Please check out our YouTube with !ArvTube. Please sub to us over there. We've had some more people again subscribing to us on YouTube, which is great. We're trying to get that to 1,000 subscribers because I'll be able to monetize the channel at that point. That would give me other options and more flexibility and things like that. So please do that. It's free for you to do it, but it will definitely help us out. That can be found over at !ArvTube. !ArvCord is the Discord channel where you can hang out with the Arvanauts in between streams. That's always a good thing. And !ArvTweets, of course, is the Twitter where you can follow me. I will post typically there about various things relating to streaming and gaming and game mastering and writing and teaching and music and podcasting and family stuff, and occasionally a bit of politics there thrown in as well. So you can find us over there. And of course, the website for all of that is arvaneleron.com. On the financial side, !Arv Shop is our merchandise area where you can get Adventures in Middle-earth and Infinity and Beyond material there. We're going to have some Espergenesis stuff up there in the merchandise area fairly soon. That again is at !Arv Shop. !Arv Treon is the Patreon. We are still sitting at 20 patrons, $198 per month. Would love to get that north of that number as we try to get good stuff for the channel. You can get good stuff for yourself individually as well, plus inspirations to help our players throughout the month. Those of you who were in the Infinity and Beyond thing on Saturday will know that there were a lot of inspirations that had to be used because that was a tough fight, but there will be more to come with other campaigns, of course, as we go forward. So you can do that at the Patreon. You can also do that by subscribing to the channel, which is always appreciated. You can get those custom sub badges and emotes and inspirations to help the players, and that also is a big help to the channel. On the publishing side, Icarus is my Icarus graphic novel from Athos Arts. Award-winning, I should say, graphic novel. I'm very proud of that. Library is my Tales and Tomes from the Forbidden Library, my 5e adventure and sourcebook from Alligator Alley Entertainment, and both Alligator Alley and Athos will be working together on my Greyshade Kickstarter. Greyshade is going to be published on May 31st, and then the preview kit for the preview page for the backer kit for the Kickstarter will go live. Then you'll be able to follow that Kickstarter, and 2 weeks later you'll be able to back it yourself when it goes live. That will be for the last two books in that series, Renegade and Heretic, for the tabletop role-playing game being designed by Aaron Rosenberg, consulted upon with that by Rich Lescouflair, and the audiobook by one Mr. Trendane Sparks. So all of that will be available at that Kickstarter. It's going to be a big deal for me. I'm very excited and nervous about it, but I am excited, and that's coming faster and faster all the time. So you can again check that out with Library, and the Greyshade Kickstarter is Greyshade KS. On the last point, of course, as always, BLM, Black Lives Matter, very important to affirm and assert the significance and importance of Black lives, and Help Now, the World Health Organization page on suicide prevention. Very important to reach out to others when you need help and to reach out to others when they need help as well. And last but certainly not least, Ukraine. We are still, of course, in a world in which a peaceful sovereign nation has been invaded and just in an illegal war, and a war that has devastating civilian consequences. And at these times, it is important for all of us to come together as a community, and that's what we're doing. That link is one way that you can help, even in a small way, but it's a way that is really significant. So thank you for being a part of all this as we go through. Now, with all of that said, the only thing I need to mention about schedule today, after we're done with Adventures in Middle-earth, today, later on this afternoon at 4 p.m. Eastern, I will be over at... why is my notification thing not working? Hang on just a second. My notification thing is not working, and I don't know why. That's interesting. I don't understand why that's doing those things. Okay. I don't get it. That's weird. Very strange. I will see what I can do. Yeah, reboot it. No, I'm not going to do that now. I'll have to worry about that later on. Thank you for the resub, Terry. I have no idea why that happens. Hopefully other resubs and things like that will work, but I just don't have time or energy or optimism to deal with more tech problems right now. So anyway. So where was I? Yes. So anyway, continuing with Adventure of Middle-earth today at 4 p.m. Eastern over on GOG.com. I will finally finish Celasta Crown of the Magister. I was going to do that last week, and then there was a disaster almost, and so I had to attend to that, but not this time, knock on wood. We will finish up Celasta and be starting with, I hope today, Edge of Eternity. So that's the deal. Yeah, there it is. Tren's sub worked. So I don't know why Terry's sub did not work. Well, thank you for the sub, Tren. And I don't understand why that happened. But anyway, thank you to Tren and to Terry Tunes both. Much love to both of them for the resubs. I appreciate it. So that'll be happening later on today. Wednesday, we're off. Thursday, we're off. And then Friday, we will be back with some Esper Genesis. And Saturday, there we go, Effect Life with the sub as well. A 12-month gift. Yes. Oh, wow. A 12-month gift. Wait a minute. What is this now? You subscribed at tier 1. They subscribed for 11 months. It's a 12-month gift. Wait, I'm confused. What is that? And also, High Life's doing. What does that mean? Thank you, Effect Life. But what does that mean? Does that mean that Uncle Elias gave you the gift and then you resubbed? Or what? I don't understand this message. So whatever it is, thank you for it. Yeah, and then Saturday we've got Metroid Prime as I get back into that series as we continue that. So Uncle Elias gifted Effect Life a full year sub. Really? I remember Elias gifting a sub. I didn't know it was for that long. Well, then, thank you. So they're on month 11. Oh. Gotcha. Yes, that's right. Your 11th month. Man, I forgot that Elias gave you a full year. That was super nice of Uncle Elias. I hope Elias is well. I haven't seen him in here a little while, so I hope everything is okay. Well, that's awesome, and welcome back again to the Arvanauts Effect Life. Good to see you, and good to see Echo, Arudnell, Live Suing, Dragon Spear, and everybody else. Good to see all you lovely folks. All right, with all that said, the time has come, lovely folks, for us to get back into things, so I am going to unmute myself, again apologizing for whoever I may have inadvertently interrupted by doing so, and then I will unmute them, and last but certainly not least, I will head over to reveal the Antoinauts here. It's always interesting to see, if I come over to my Eberron crew, they're always like, ba 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 ba, joke. But always here I just get, smiles, people doing little dances, Trent practically falling asleep because it's incredibly early for him. But that's basically the difference when I get these things. But
yeah, we're better than everyone else.
Yeah. Right. Well, we're coming up, we're only a couple months from ArvCon, where we once again get to hear groups talk smack about each other in terms of how much money they raise.
We don't need to wait for ArvCon for that. We can start now.
Just start talking smack now.
Yeah.
It's true. It's like the world wrestling. Yeah. It's like the professional wrestling thing when I was a kid. You got to build up the storyline over time about the problem. So, but it is good to see these folks because we have not actually been together. We were figuring out for I think 6 weeks or so, probably collectively. And for Brad, it's been even longer than that because Brad was gone doing some stuff and attending to things. And now we're back, everybody, which is good, just in time to deal with ominous news of dragons, but we'll talk about that in a bit. I will start with top left with the gentleman who, though he may be sleepy, is certainly not. I have no idea how to wrestle that sentence to the deck. Who is still an awesome person, and that, of course, is from Mr. Trendane Sparks. It's good to see you, Trend. How's life in the universe with you, and who are you playing today?
I would like to put to rest the argument about this shirt.
It's an orange shirt.
It is not orange.
It's pretty orange.
It is blue and white.
It's red and yellow.
So my Nanoleaf lights are kind of a honey color. Okay, because otherwise I look even worse than I do now. But if I put this on here, it's yellow. Okay, if
that's a yellow light you just put on there. That's all that is.
It's a white light.
And what's amazing is that I totally saw it change color. Like, it looked yellow when you first held it up, and then it oranged.
Okay, Tren. And this is not blue. It's actually dark purple. Okay? I'll play along with your silly game. You're probably right. I'm just saying that,
I will believe you if you tell me that, because you can actually see it as opposed to what the camera, the artificial eye that cannot equal our own. Anyway, whatever.
Exactly, that's doing. There are 4 lights. Exactly.
Who am I? Tren. Tren Sparks. I'm. Wow. Okay. Hi. Sudden tally. Okay. Yeah. That.
Wow, that is.
What is happening?
I was just going to say, what is happening? This is my fault because I said this crew is very chill when we first get there, and then that just broke it apart. Completely.
You did
I
this.
was just adjusting my camera, okay? And like Trent made it weird.
Have you guys seen that scale video where it zooms into like a face and then it goes down to the atomic level and then it zooms all the way back out and goes to like the cosmic scale? It looked like the beginning of that video.
Exactly.
Basically.
Extreme close-up. Exactly, Renell in all caps. Anyway, Tren, when not looking at Terry in extreme zoom mode.
Yeah. It's like Ant-Man and the Wasp. Yeah, I'm a professional voice actor and audiobook narrator person, which I'm sure he has already mentioned at least once during the intro. Yeah, and I'm playing this guy who doesn't have a dog, but
it has too many titles.
It has too many titles, right? And one of them is Dwarf Friend, which was really kind of called to the test, tested recently.
It's important.
He was getting ready to start axe smacking some bitches, and he doesn't even own an axe. So yeah.
I love how you just keep disambiguating Toddy from every other. You know what else he doesn't have? A magical frying pan.
Or a longbow.
Several feet of height.
Also doesn't have a big dog. Many other things.
He said that. He said that at the beginning.
Yeah.
That was the first thing he said.
Was that he didn't have a big dog? Oh, I missed that.
Yeah, it was the main thrust of everything I said. Thanks so much for paying attention. So, but during the Eberron thing, when I was doing the introductions there, I said that he had a faithful hound of Mirkwood as
right.
Gotcha. No, wait, that's a mouse character. No, it was awesome. It was fun. But his name is Thane Tonybear the Hearthmender, Dwarf Friend. Hobbit escort.
I was gonna wait. I was like, wait for it. Good stuff. It is a great pleasure to have Tren with us as always. And Tren, it'll be interesting too because Tren just got done with the end of season 1 of our Eberron campaign, which was intense. It was a big fight. And
there were a few tents, yeah.
So this one is might be intense in a different way, but not because of a huge fight right off the bat. Anyway, so I'll be interested to see how that works. But moving right along over to the zooming in and out, as necessary. Terry Tunes. It's good to see you, Terry, in full living Technicolor. So how's life with you? I know that obviously we've had a chance to do our gamebook illustrations. But since then, have you done any more with the house? Have you built yet your professional studio, your heraldry room, which is just a room I just imagine of just like have you built any of these
things?
Like
every room is going to be a heraldry room.
Every room is a heraldry room. Okay, yeah. Just to be clear.
Well, I mean the hallway by now is. So
honestly.
Also, like we're doing a different order now, which is interesting. Like usually it was like because like now we are not like top to bottom anymore. Now we are like a box.
Yeah, I decided to mix it up a little bit today.
Yeah.
My bad.
Keeping us on our toes.
Like if people follow me on Twitter or on Instagram, like people might have seen that I started illustrating in the style of the Codex Manesse, which is this like old Swiss manuscript full of like beautiful stylized illustrations or illuminations, as they're actually called. Like the copy that I have actually has like the gold foil, which is fantastic. If I can find a page with a picture, that would be great. Oh, that is not going to show on camera, is it? Nope, it's not showing at all. Fantastic.
I saw something until you took it away.
Well, like, but the gold is not showing.
Does it look orange, Terry? Does it look orange? Does it look orange?
No, it's black and blue.
Sure.
Actually.
Sure it is.
So yeah, I hung those pictures up in the hallway now.
Awesome.
Yes. and yet it looks quite snazzy. But yeah, I like working on the house. Lots to do. Started working on the garden the other day, which caused all kinds of muscle soreness. Yesterday I was completely knocked out. Was just able to lay on the couch all day playing Death Stranding. Yeah, house is coming along slow. But yeah.
That's good. And who are you
Gute Dinge
playing?
Weile haben, as we say in German, which roughly translates to good things need time.
Reasonable.
Yes.
And who are you playing today? Hasn't been that long, has it? I'm playing an elf. I'm playing Legolas.
Actually, you could argue that at some point, well, I mean, in German, like Germanic folklore anyway, dwarves and elves are kind of the same thing, actually. Anyway, yeah, it was Tolkien who like made them a separate
right,
thing,
I was going to say, listen, we're about the Professor Tolkien's history, okay?
Yeah, no, I'm playing Thane Inga Homefinder, daughter of Ida, Council of Dane the Second, or Dane. He's not a Dane, he's a dwarf. So, anywho, yeah, I'm a bit like the coffee did not kick in yet, so that's not good.
And it's my fault for taking you out of order.
Yeah, like
my tea is also slightly broken.
Ordnung muss sein. So, like
what?
Order, like that's just a German meme, like, because, like, you know, the stereotype is that Germans are very orderly and punctual and blah blah blah, which
it's not the case.
That's the case, not with me anyway. You don't want to know what the rest of this room looks like. Be happy that the camera zoomed in.
The camera zooms out. It's just like
burst our bubble. Sorry.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, it's like clutter and like it's like the whole thing's a big cork board from the meme of the guy.
Well, I
being
mean, like here is an iron and a paper cutting machine, and here is a painting thing, and
all of the things that you're showing us are in boxes, which are units of order. And I'm sorry.
With random junk.
There was one
clutter
thing in
is
that
not
bowl.
our clutter.
I was just gonna say.
There's like all the stuff in here is like.
Oh my god!
Look how disorderly! I just.
You monster!
I need
like
to actually show
everything in like nice ordered rows.
It's so funny that this is a German's vision of chaos, right? They're just like, oh, I don't how to.
Look, yeah, dirty spoon.
Oh, dirty spoon. Oh,
I swear.
Man. I literally could turn my camera about 5 inches to the right, and you would see all of the things you just showed me in one pile. Okay, like I mean, anyway, it is good to have Terry with us.
You see the cleanest part of my office right here, and it's like totally cluttered and stuff.
I should say, actually, I should say my office is fairly clean now.
I didn't bother to put into the bin that's like right there on the floor.
Yeah,
sure.
Just leave it here.
It's like pulling things out of a recycle bin. Oh look,
you're stretching now, Tari. Yeah.
I'm just imagining Taria like off camera hastily ripping some paper up so that she can pretend that there's some kind of mess around.
Look, a paper towel that's messy. Look, like
well, I have some messy paper.
Yes. Anyway, it is good to see you, Terry, and I'm glad that you're here with us. And you can, you know, Trent can believe things are orange, and you can believe that you're disorganized. But let's talk to Brad and see whether there are delusions with this person.
Oh wait, I wasn't finished with my character. I'm a dwarf from the Erebor. I have a trusty pony sidekick. I'm a wanderer.
And right,
I'm a wanderer.
I was just thinking that it goes around. Anyway, pleasure to have Terry with us. And according to some person named Nariel Marinin, says that you know, hasn't met a single orderly and punctual German. So I suppose that's the claim.
Well, he's only met my family, so
there you go.
Only me and my family.
But good to see you as always, Terry. Moving right along, we have someone who wants to claim a lack of organization, but now is organized because now has a kitchen ready that will allow him to feed all of Greater Wisconsin. I believe is how that works, right, Brad? Is that how these things work? It's Brad Bollier, of course. Are there any truths to the rumor that your kitchen is now in amazing, unbelievable shape? And is like ready.
It's very close to being finished. The cabinets are in, the flooring is in, the new appliances are in. Plumbing's all done, all kinds of stuff. I'm down to like a tiny bit of baseboard to finish and a backsplash. That's it. So yeah, in the next couple of weeks, I'll have that done. So yeah, it's and then I will feed many. We've been like begging off on everything, you know, like having stuff at our house because, well, justifiably things were like torn up for so long. So we'll have like a celebratory meal at some point with the family and stuff here.
Good stuff.
I'm also kind of trying to figure out what I desperately want to believe to be true. You know, that it isn't like this ramekin is filled with gold. It is. Really, it is.
But that's like just like Terry was trying to pretend to be messy. That's like you trying to pretend to be deluded. It's like, how can I make up a delusion that? How about this?
Bless you all. Trying to cosplay actually.
Having known Brad for a long time, it strikes me. I don't know. Brad's a very sensible person. Do you have delusions? You must have some. I don't know. It's hard to imagine. You know.
I think you should. Yeah. I think you should take a mug and break it or batter it, as it were, in your kitchen and christen it the battered mug, and there you go.
Actually, this cute little thing here, it's actually kind of battered.
Hey, there you go.
Yes, somewhat battered. A little bit. Somewhat battered. Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
When not dealing with battered mugs outside of things, what do you do inside the game? Who are you playing, Brett?
I'm playing Bolabras Took, a hobbit who might not be as well seasoned as his frying pan flankseer, but who is becoming so slowly over time. So he is looking forward to getting back into the thick of things, as it were.
Indeed, and actually, when we get started, the session is going to begin finally with you and Tani talking a little bit about what happened during the fellowship phase. We're going to discuss that, and then the end of the fellowship phase, we'll jump into current time, and we'll move forward with the final leg of the journey to the Iron Hills to speak there to King Dane about something, because they have been summoned. So, but I will talk more about that when we get there. Always good to have Brad with us, and last but certainly not least, always good as well to have Amal with us. Good to see you, Amal, and yeah, we wanted to. I know that, recently, the last time that we were going to play, you had a very uneventful trip that was totally fine and didn't lead to any problems at all, and wasn't harrowing. But then you had it, and it was nice and restful. So I guess that's the end of it. Can you confirm, was this a harrowing trip? And who are you playing today in the game?
Well, the journey to a beautiful cabin in the beautiful wilderness, the beautiful wilderness of rural Ontario, was undertaken during one of the 2 weathers in which I do not drive. I am Canadian. I have a long history of driving in weather, but there are 2 weathers I refuse to drive in. One of them is freezing rain, and the other is blowing snow. And they're 2
Haven't you just described Canada?
No,
it's like, I'm
these
Canadian.
are actually, I mean, they are increasingly common because of climate change. But blowing snow is not like, if it's just snowing, that's fine, whatever. I can drive in a blizzard, it's fine. Blowing snow is a very specific condition where it's sufficiently cold and sufficiently windy that the snow has turned to powder.
Yes. Yeah.
And in stretches of highway, you have these giant billows of zero visibility.
Yep.
Before exiting out into like a sunny day. It's like weather that gaslights you. It's literally weather that is like, oh, look,
this will never end. Oh yeah, it will.
So it's but freezing rain is, of the 2 of them, the more pernicious one to me, because it is just so dangerous. And if you can just imagine driving on a ice rink that is also a roller coaster, that is more or less the experience that I had in just the last 5 kilometers of this journey. It was upsetting. I don't recommend driving in a place where there is a hill sufficiently tall that you can see a car coming down it sideways. It was very, very strange. But having gotten through this leg of the journey, trying to think of it in like AME terms, like, I don't know, difficulty levels of journey, I was,
it was like a tier 2 type of, like danger level.
Yeah. Absolutely. Everything was fine until like the disembarking portion, I guess. It was anyway. But I had a lovely, very restful, very restorative 5 days in a cabin in the heart of winter by a beautiful river. It was deeply gorgeous. Speaking of rivers, that is who I play in this game. This is a character called The River, who is a fighty bard. She's a woodsman of Rosgobel. She's a warden. She fights with twin axes and her singing voice and harp. And this is her faithful hound of Mirkwood named Stone. Yeah, that's... I don't have a title yet. I can't remember if we decided that was happening or not. I don't think it was.
Not yet. I don't think you've, but at some point.
Yeah. At
and
some
then
point,
it'll just
perhaps.
be Bolo, Bolo of the flank seared, the river of the rapid loot. Actually, the game that was played on here for charity last night was Aegon, which is John Harper's game. And one of the things the players have to do is create and then use epithets. So everything was swift-limbed Artemisia and stuff like that. So you're we need the Homeric epithet.
That's okay. I know exactly what it should be.
Really?
Harp abandoner. Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, that hurts.
Do you want to stand up for the knife that's in the back?
That's 2d10 psychic damage.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
2d10 heart damage, like right there.
Yeah. I will. Can I a tiny other bit of news? Actually, you just reminded me because you said psychic damage. 1990s band Eve 6 followed me on Twitter today, and that is the thing that is making me particularly happy.
Nice.
And they don't even follow like hundreds of thousands of people. They follow a small number of people, and that number now includes me. And I am very pleased because I retweeted something about their hit 1998 song Inside Out, and I'm choosing to believe that this is my reward, that I've been noticed by Senpai.
Absolutely. That's great stuff. I mean, I had recently Sergeant Slaughter follow me, swear to God, from World Wrestling fame. So I felt fairly good about that, but that's a little different.
The last thing I will say before saying we should jump into the game, I wish to show off my cool mug. So it's a seahorse.
Ooh, that's awesome.
Adorable.
That's really slick. Yeah, that's cool.
My very dear friend Caitlin Paxson, her mom makes these. She also makes awesome squid mugs, which I have only not brought to show you because for two reasons. One, the color scheme matches my shirt better, but also I've been using the squid mug a lot, and I would have had to wash it. But this one I haven't used yet, so this is my christening of this mug with this game.
You will have to listen to Seahorse by Jonathan Colton while drinking from that mug.
Do I know that song? I think I might already know it.
That song.
But yeah, I do know much of the of Jonathan Colton, presently on his Joko cruise, I believe, where maybe one day I will go. Maybe.
Someday. Someday.
Imagine going to concerts.
It's
Imagine
true.
going on cruises.
Well,
Like,
we're getting.
yeah.
I mean, I took my
Getting
daughter to a
there.
basketball game a couple of weeks ago, so
Like, listen,
with
like-
things. So is because
So
they have
the first
vaccination
4
here
years
as well
will be
now.
there.
But my boyfriend and I were supposed to see Black Guardian like 2 years ago, and it's been postponed again now. And I'm like,
Yeah, they're spiraling into something that's getting closer to more like things used to be, but it's so slow.
well, like they did stop all
know.
restrictions here in the Netherlands, so that is nice. No more masks.
They-
Freedom.
Oh boy, they lifted a lot of restrictions here. They're keeping the mask mandate, so far as I'm aware, but they lifted forcing restaurants to ask for proof of vaccination.
Right.
But some restaurants, to my great joy, are still enforcing that for the rest of the month. So those are the ones I'm spending time in.
Yeah, they lifted the mask mandate at my university, but honestly, they have a full proof of. They literally kick students and faculty out who were not vaccinated. So I feel a little better about that because it's a full 100% vaccination compliance requirement. So.
Same.
And I have to say, I taught my first class in literally 2 years without a mask last night, and it was really nice. I was like, I can actually articulate. I took it off, and one of my students was like, "He does have a beard." It's just like, yes, I do indeed have a beard. Anyway,
You sometimes make reference to your beard when lecturing, and and you can't prove it because
no, it was weird. Like because students do all these things where they always you must get some of this, Amal, where they like try to find out, okay, this is the professor or the instructor or whatever, and then they go and they try to find out everything, you know. And
Like,
for those of us
professor.
who are not yet multiple Hugo Award winners, I'll let you know they have to do a little more searching for me. So, you know, that's all. But no, it was.
When students follow me on Twitter and or Instagram, I start freaking out. I'm like, why are you doing this? Don't do this.
I had the first time I had a
posting
student
at 2 a.m.
Yep. First time I had a student who came over to one of my streams, and they were like, Dr. Wilson. I'm like, do you know? And it was because I don't keep it a secret, but I'm not going to advertise it, you know, broadly necessarily. So then they came back and informed everyone in class. They're like, you know, he streams on Twitch, and people are like, what? That's impossible. They're like, no one over the age of 25 streams on Twitch. It's madness. So anyway, all right. Well, part of why we're doing this chat is because we haven't actually talked to each other as a group in a while. So we're just chatting, but we're going to move on and actually play a game. So, but it is good to see everybody. It is good to see. You did say who your character was, Amel, just now? Yes? Did you?
Yes.
Okay.
Her name is
with Stone. You said it. Yes, you got it. I remember.
Yeah.
Okay, good. I'm good. I'm caught up. So we are here. We're ready to go. And let us fire up some music and talk about what happened. Now, there's been a lot that's happened, so I can't reveal all of it. I mean, I can't go over everything. But what I will say is that during the course of our fellowship phase, which happened all the way back in late January, I believe, during that time, there were several things that were undertaken and information that was gathered by the party. The group ended up going to Haven, ended up going to the sanctuary of Haven to reconnect with Ash and to see that, in fact, there are things that have been advanced forward. There was an encounter, I believe, with Vig, who came up and sort of talked to the River and Inga about how things have been at Haven. Vig, you may remember, is the one that they actually spared, who had originally been working for the absolutely dreadful antagonist of the first few adventures, you may remember, and who now, thanks to their largesse, is now gone off and has joined the people at Haven. Haven is say again.
He's a blacksmith.
He's a blacksmith, and in fact, they've continued to grow and provide more. It's gradually becoming even more defensible, which is a nice little change on top of everything else. The party also had a very interesting encounter as well with a group of ravens who swore connections and fealty ultimately to Inga, and the leader of that group of ravens was basically asked Inga, and this was Karun, who was the father of Korun, who was the raven who fell at Selduin, the crossings at Selduin, and asked basically for Inga to try to find the goblin or goblins, the orcs that had been responsible for shooting down his son, and to basically bring justice to them. And Inga agreed to do that. The raven, of course, was very good about being like, basically, I know this takes time, that sort of thing, but asked it as a sort of personal favor. And of course, Inga, believing, of course, in the connection between the ravens and dwarves, the long-standing connection, agreed to do this along with the rest of the party as their adventures continue. And so you might consider this, I guess some people would call this a side quest, but it's really kind of a built-in thing that Inga and the rest of the party may be on the lookout for as they continue. The final destination of the party here is going to be the Iron Hills, where they have been summoned by King Dane, who wishes to speak to them about a matter of significant importance. But there is one matter to attend to before we get to that point, and that is that during this fellowship phase, Tani and Bolo went off to return to Tani's home so that Tani could check on things, and also so that Bolo could do something as well. And this is where I want to hand things back over to Tani and Bolo to talk a little bit about what happened during that section. We've been waiting to talk about it, but we didn't want to do it until Bolo's player was here. And so now that he is, we can talk a little bit about that. So I will hand things back over to Tren and to Brad. And I don't know if you want to, Tani, if you want to start by talking a little bit about what you had imagined for this and kind of go from there.
The first thing that we had done, I think, was to talk about which path we were taking back. And we had decided to take the more southerly route because it was more direct, kind of thinking along the ideas that Bolo might want to return home for a little while.
Right.
And that if he didn't want to go all the way home, that he could stop and just stay with Tani, and in something that was surroundings that were a little bit more hobbity, a little bit more out in nature with green fields and such, rather than being in a big human town. Was kind of where we started with that. And but of course, Brad, I wanted to, we wanted to leave things open-ended enough that if you thought that Bolo might want to do something different, we could still be flexible enough to nudge it.
Yeah, I mean, he's been gone for a while, so it'd be good to sort of get away a little bit. I don't know like how long is this fellowship phase? Do we know the sort of start and end times?
So
we did talk about that.
Yeah, because you concluded the actions of the last Dungeons Deep were early autumn of 2959. And the end of this phase, basically the time that you've been invited to go deal with King Dane, is actually, well, it's still I guess it's about a month and a half from where we are now in real life, be 2960 in late spring. So we're talking about maybe, I don't know, what does it work out to? 5 months, maybe? You assume like early November to mid-May, I guess, would be about what I would imagine.
Yeah. So would there be enough time to make it to the Shire and back, or?
I think there would. The question, I guess, would be if you wanted to. Did you want anyone to come with you on that journey? Like, would Tani come for part of it? Would it just be, or would Tani stay in his house completely and Bolo just go off on his own? It's up to how you want to handle it.
Bolo would welcome the company if.
The conversation with Beorn took an afternoon.
Right.
Yeah.
And since it is going into winter, there's no crops to bring in. The animals have all been tended and dealt with. The hives are kind of shut down. So it would just be kind of staying at Tani's place long enough to kind of decompress and be like, yeah, okay, my home's still here, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And just take a breath at home. And then he could absolutely have the conversation with Beorn and then continue on to the Shire, because Tani's never been there. It would be neat.
Yeah, well, and vice versa. So my vision would be that Bolo would want to be sort of shown the area a little bit and not have a rush, through it. Be able to live in it for a bit and then basically do the same thing in the Shire. Just have a sharing of our homelands type thing on this journey.
Okay, that's certainly
doable.
Possible.
Well, I'm just thinking too. Like I know we sort of do things character-wise in the fellowship phase, and so if there was something that lent itself to this sort of experience, that might enrich both of us. I don't know what Tani picked for his fellowship phase, but so maybe I don't know what it would be. Something to do with travel, being able to, something to do with like identification of land or plants or things along those lines. Maybe to help with even like cooking type things that the Bolo kind of specializes in.
Right. Right, because you're specifically talking about what your fellowship phase action would be, Brad, is basically the thing.
Yeah, and just kind of leaning into this whole journey aspect type thing, or even like an expansion of his awareness of the lore, of Tani's homeland, or even like the homelands along the way, the land along the way. Like, maybe part of it is just kind of like chatting up people in taverns along the way and just trying to learn more about that route and absorbing that type of thing. I'm thinking this is a good time to decompress, and Bolo's been under a ton of pressure over the past several adventures and stuff, and I think he's viewing this as sort of a way to reconnect with his land, but also like reach outward through Tani and his experiences, and even like on the journey itself. So that's what I'm thinking. Just kind of lean into this thing a little bit.
Then I am triply glad that we took the southern route, because that means we don't have to go past the Easterly Inn.
Well, while you see the Let's see. Yeah, in fact, let me just double check here something. Okay.
Yeah, I figured that was a stroopwafel. I was like, oh.
Oh, 2 O's in Dutch is a long O. Not oo. Like
Okay.
oo is O-E in Dutch.
So let's talk about the mechanical part first in terms of how that plays out. So the sort of typical fellowship phases that you have, the typical kind of ones that are available to anybody, are basically as follows. I'll run through these quickly. There is recovery, which comes from exhaustion, relieving exhaustion levels and things like that. All hit dice and hit points being recovered and things like that. There is training that allows you to basically further train a cultural virtue, although I don't think, Brad, that Bolo's got something like that. There is the gaining of a new trait, which was done once by the river, where a trait that previously had seemed more logical seemed not as logical now, and based upon stuff that happened during the course of the adventure, something had changed quite a bit. There is the always ever popular healing corruption. You have a couple of shadow points, and so you could spend some time healing corruption. There is also meeting a patron that you could try to do, or opening a sanctuary, although the only thing I'd say about a sanctuary is since you're going west of the Misty Mountains to do all this, you're probably not, the adventure is not likely to lead you back that way, so I don't know how beneficial the sanctuary would be. Obviously, the Shire is a sanctuary for you anyway, but like,
yeah,
I don't know.
I want to save that for like a future time because
right.
I'm thinking the Battered Mug will eventually become that.
That's right, exactly. That makes sense. So then, and then the last two are just receive title. And there's not a particular one yet, although there's some possibilities that could certainly be pitched about that idea. As it states here, hobbits don't like or welcome adventurers, and so the best you would get from the hobbits of the Shire would be the honorary title of Bounder. If you decided to become one of those hobbits, the adventuring types. Or we've got research lore, which is basically trying to gain knowledge about something. Tani did this once in trying to gather information about a particular artifact. So if you have different thoughts about different possibilities of things that you're thinking about in terms of trying to a fellowship phase, I'll take that. I will also say that there are a couple of fellowship phase options you might find while journeying through Bree, because there is in the Breeland area, there are some things to be done that you might encounter en route, but I don't want to push you down that way unless you feel inclined to consider it. So that is an option.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that like the heal corruption thing kind of is a good match at this particular point. Just really just using it as a way to clear his mind, rejuvenate his spirit after the last couple of adventures, especially the previous one. Previous couple really, and so I think that would be fine, and maybe a hello stop in with Bilbo to maybe update him on because we had this background with Bolo and like the chainmail suit that I think came up in the last adventure. I think that was sort of the thing that he was kind of looking out for, and so I'd want to tell Bilbo that story and stuff.
I love it. So let's do that then. And then at the end of it, remind me if I forget, please. We'll then have you do the roll to heal corruption, the mechanical roll. And after that, I think we can kind of fast forward. We don't have to do the return journey. We can fast forward that up to this point. But I do think it would be good for us to play out, your meeting up with Bilbo, especially if Tani's with you, mostly because I want the image of Tani trying to fit inside Bag End. I'm a huge fan of this prospect.
I'm already thinking about that.
So if that sounds amenable to everyone, including Inga and the River, I promise we'll come back to you folks shortly. Okay. So
that's fine. I'm not surreptitiously trying to figure out what I actually chose, if anything, for my own fellowship phase.
I know you chose something. I just need to look at it. I don't remember, to be honest. No, I don't.
That's
remember
the thing. I'm literally looking it up in the video presently. But yeah, it's fine. Please continue.
It's fine. Okay. So so again, this is late autumn when you set off. And so as you are making your way, Bolo and Tani, through, and you said you're taking that pass, going over the high pass, yes? So that you don't have to go further north to the Easterly Inn, like you're just going directly west over the road. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So
because it's also closest to his house.
Right, absolutely. So as you make your way over, I would say obviously the high pass in this particular area in question is still dangerous, and despite the fact that it is, as is said in the end of The Hobbit, the wild was still the wild. But having you and Tani together makes this a lot easier, Bolo, than it might have been on your own. Not that you can't make this trip on your own, but it helps to have this very large individual striding along next to you, because you know that since the Battle of the Five Armies, the rumor has basically been that when goblins and orcs appear, their tendency has been to sort of do one of these, like, pick you off because you went to a cave you shouldn't have, and then, like, that sort of thing. Like, they're not at the moment in the business of outwardly challenging people because they, for one thing, the Bjornings themselves have gone right up into the Misty Mountains and have helped clear out a lot of the remaining goblins and orc areas. So they have tended to lie pretty low. But one thing that strikes you is you make your way over the high pass, and then you come on one gorgeous morning to see the western side of the Misty Mountains, looking down on the beautiful valley of where Rivendell and Elrond's people are, and of course the Trollshaws and the roads to the right, roads to the west as you continue it. One thing that strikes you is that there is a feeling of vague anticipation, as if a giant had exhaled, let us say, and is in the moment of waiting before drawing breath again. And there is that moment of sort of almost suspended animation as you cross over the mountains. There are still birds that fly overhead. You are not accosted by any creature. There's nothing that challenges you, but there is this sort of general sense, even more than when you came to the east. There is this general sense of the waiting for something. And it is not altogether a pleasant feeling, I would say. But there's nothing that you can put your finger on of like, there we'll see. But when we get to the, we just lost
Terry.
Lost Terry. All right, hang on a second. We're going to get Terry back, I hope. Because I want to make sure that oh, there we go. Yes.
Yes, rip.
Yes.
No. Hi, sorry, my internet died there for a minute.
That's no problem. Let me just make sure that Brad is not Inga and that the river is okay. Good. We're all back to normal now. So, when you were looking down on that side, there's that feeling of anticipation. But as you come down the hill onto the western road, you begin to feel this sense of gradual warmth fill you as you leave the Misty Mountains behind.
There is one thing that Tawny would do.
Okay.
At one point he would stop and like mid-stride and stop and just be kind of standing there looking out across the thing, and if Bolo turned around and was like, what's going on? And Tawny will say, if I take one more step, it'll be the furthest west from home I've ever been.
You've seen that video where it's just like they do like however many hours of that, like every step he takes, it's the farthest I've ever been.
Oh no.
Yeah, there's a whole video on it. It's pretty funny. Okay. So as you also you do that. As you make your way to the west, you begin to see again dwarves and hobbits ambling by on business in both directions. You note that the traffic into and out of Bree is, when you actually arrive there, is even more extensive, Bolo, than the first time you went past here. Bree has become a little bit of a sort of a very popular destination, it seems, for trade going back and forth. And there are definitely discussions here and there about problems that exist on the borders of goblin lands and whether or not the goblins and orcs are really defeated and whether there are other dragons that will hear about the fall of the dragon. Now, remember, these conversations are happening, years after the fall of Smog, but it sometimes takes a while for news to get out here. So even though the news has been here for a while, it still feels like a fairly new sort of thing. There are general discussions as well that you hear from people about farmlands going fallow and about the importance of irrigation in this area and whatever, all that sort of local talk. But other than that, everything feels fairly copacetic as you proceed, and probably a couple of months after you depart Tawny's house, you find yourself right on the edge of walking into the spectacular green region that is known as the Shire. And Tawny, for you in particular, have only heard rumors of this. It is hard to imagine a place more green, almost pulled directly, from as if someone had painted something and then wished it to life. That is what the Shire appears to be. Everything seems to move at a far slower and calmer pace, and the warmth, even in and again, this is, by the time you get there, you're talking about the winter. So, but nonetheless, this Shire never really gets snow covered to some incredible degree. It never gets brown and dead. There just always seems to be a life to it, albeit a very slow processing life. And yet, as you stride through the streets, this is not the middle of spring, Bolo. And so some of the the gardens have been prepared for as close to winter as the Shire ever gets, and so forth. So you make your way into the Shire, and you see a few halflings here and there tending to things, but not as many as you might during, let's say, the heart of midsummer.
Right. And this time, I don't know enough about mushrooms to know if any would be sprouting around now. But I'm thinking, like, if there were, I would try to collect some before
a couple.
I went to.
Yeah, I'm trying to think about that actually, because it's probably like January, late January.
Yeah,
so I don't
probably
not. I wouldn't think.
Yeah.
I mean, there are plenty of stocks, of course, that have been brought in. The Shire always has plenty of food stuffs that are prepared for the winter, but
yeah.
And you do notice.
I'm just thinking of gathering something as like a bit of a gift for Bilbo before I get there.
Oh, I see. You could do that. I mean, you could also have gotten him a gift on the eastern side if you wanted to bring him stuff from, Tawny's place or from, the areas even in Dale or anything like that. You could have brought those too if you wished.
Yeah.
He's never experienced Beorning food. Oh, wait.
Well, yeah, some honey, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe I'll gather some, strands, dried strands of grass and stuff, and just make a wreath, that he can put on his door for a little while or something. Something simple.
Absolutely, you can do that. When you come up the hill and around, and you do notice that as you pass a couple of hobbits, they are taken aback a little bit by seeing Tawny in particular. Yeah. They're occasionally they're just like, and you a couple times you pass by hobbits and you hear them whispering about, was that young Bolo back there? I don't know. Who's he traveling with? That's a bounder he is. As bad news as the Tookish side of him, and that kind of thing, like people passing by. And you eventually find yourself coming up and around the hill where you see the round green door with the knob in the middle. That is, of course, Bag End and Bilbo's home.
Head up, and if I don't see him anywhere, I'll go and knock on the door.
Okay. So you do that, and there's a pause, and then from the other side of the door you hear, "Yes? Who is it?"
Bilbo, it's Bolo Brastuk. I've returned from my journey east.
And so there's a pause, and then the door opens, and you see Bilbo's face peeking out, and he says in quite a different voice, "Oh, my dear boy. Well, yes, come in. I thought you were one of the Sackville Bagginses. Come in. And he waves both of you, and then he sees you, and he says, "Oh, well, I've never actually had a Beorning in my home, But of course you're welcome. I would suggest you bend down low, mind, all the way low, mind, underneath the circle so that you don't hurt your head or body or my hole, actually.
Bilbo, may I introduce Thane Tonybear, dwarf friend,
Yes. There'll be time for introductions in a moment. Just get inside before they see you.
Tonic grabs a hold of the edge of the door to make sure he clears it.
Yeah. He does. And it should be noted, of course, that Bag End is a very stately hobbit residence, which still means it's pretty small, but it's, it's quite cavernous from Bolo's point of view.
Well, I was just looking up, I was like, how tall is Gandalf? Right, so I put that into Google, and it's like he's 5'6".
That's nonsense. Like, he's taller than that.
That's what I was thinking.
No
I'm
way.
taller than Gandalf.
No
that
way.
Can't be right.
Dude is 6 foot if he's an inch. Come on now.
Right. So,
well, maybe it's the hat that makes him look taller.
Maybe, but
although
probably he also walks a bit hunched over. That
I have to say, my mind was blown to find out that Aragorn, I think we talked about this, Terry, was 6'7". Like that, just like. Good God, because you hear these things like tall man.
He's like a descendant of the
No, I get it,
right?
but like every time they say a tall man, it's from the perspective of Frodo, who for a season was like, well, everybody's tall to Frodo. It was like, no, he was like LeBron James tall man, like that kind of tall man. Anyway, sorry.
Well, I mean, like, look at how tall Galadriel is. Like, she is.
It's true.
Massive.
So sorry, I beg your pardon. We won't get sidetracked.
Is 6'10", so he's taller than Gandalf.
Yeah, so he's taller. So he leans down and gets goes in, and Bolo, assuming you follow along, then Bilbo shuts the door behind you and turns around. Now, Tani, you probably would have certainly heard of some of the legends of Bilbo, because you would have heard even references to this when Bjorn knew about your traveling with a hobbit, and certainly Bjorn knew Bilbo. And so you've heard some of this, but he is wearing a very fancy-looking green waistcoat with a chain that goes into it. It looks like he's got some kind of a pocket watch. And his rather capacious belly is covered by his red overcoat that he wears over that vest and buttoned up. And he still looks... And actually, Tani, you find this a little surprising. Based on age, you know that Bilbo should be... fairly, moving on there, even in Hobbit years, and yet he looks very young, actually surprisingly young and well-preserved, perhaps the Hobbits might call it. And you notice that he continually pats his vest pockets, both of them, and kind of rocks back and forth. He sees you and says, well, my boy, and he kind of pats you on the shoulder, Bolo, and he says, it's a great pleasure to see you. What a wonderful day. I don't get visitors, especially during the winter. Well, not since the events previously. The only visitors I get are the ones who want to know if I'm still addled in the head, eh? Well, come join me, now that we're inside. It was the Sackville Baggins, as you understand. They've been lurking around my residence ever since, have never really believed that I'm the genuine article, you see, and I don't want to spend time dealing with blasted family members, except for certain ones. My nephew, yes. You count as family, yes. Them, no. If they happen to fall in the river running, that would be fine with me. Not that you heard that from me. Anyway, it's a pleasure to see you all. And you, sir, and he kind of looks up. He says, well, Bolo, you said you were going to introduce him?
Yeah, welcome to Thane Tonybear, dwarf friend Hearthmender. We've been traveling together from Erebor, and we've been on many adventures together, and he thought he might like to see the Shire, and to meet you, in fact.
Splendid. Well, you're larger than the Shire itself, aren't you? I hope you find it, it's a little, well, probably less interesting than you're used to, sir.
Peace and quiet appeals to me.
Ah, a good man, a man after my own heart, yes. Peace and quiet is something that we do need in equal measure. Well, you must be starving. What can I provide you? Here, please, into my kitchen. And he kind of like...
Something which goes well with this. And he produces the container of honey.
Oh, my goodness. Is that honey I see?
It is.
And he
my very own hives.
He opens the top of it and he says, one moment. And he kind of hands it back to you, and then he goes into his kitchen, and he comes out with a long handled thing, and it is at the end of it is what looks almost like a kind of series of spirals. And he says, would you mind terribly if I just had a slight taste of that, using this very special honey dipper? I received this from the dwarves, you know.
That is why I brought it.
And so he takes it and he sort of just dips carefully and then...
Bolo's going to busy himself making some tea while this is going on.
And he sort of almost sort of gestures like, yes. And he's just, his eyes are closed. He says, yes. It's the flavors of springtime and from Wilderland where this comes, of course. My goodness, you must have taken some time. These are mature bees to have produced honey of this nature. Are they still, tell me, I haven't been to the Bjorn's lands in some time. Are they still, these bees, as large as me? Or at least so it feels?
Beorn's bees are slightly larger than mine. Mine are descended from his bees.
I see. But goodness, and have there been any difficulties of early frost or anything like that? This honey is such a treasure. I would lose all of Middle-earth before I would lose something like this.
No, this year we had a surprisingly short winter, and spring came a few weeks early, so...
That is wonderful, wonderful. I am most incredibly grateful. My goodness, this honey is enough. Well, the only way to have honey, of course, is with the best possible bread, and fortunately for you, I've baked not one but 2 loaves this morning. My anticipatory senses never fail me. Come, and as indeed, Tani, as you head in, you and Bolo both can smell the greatest of all bread. Now, I want to be clear to Chad here that people are just like, oh, I really like fresh bread. No. When you have walked into a room where bread has just been baked, and I don't mean we just warmed it in the microwave, I mean we've just baked the bread, you could practically...
Wait, what?
You know what I'm saying?
Putting bread in the microwave?
I mean like to warm it. Yeah, you haven't heard of that? Some people do that to warm the bread. I agree with you. This is terrible and abomination. I know. Our society has fallen so far.
That is so incredibly cursed.
Yeah.
I hate this.
Floppy bread. Delicious.
Soft floppy
Don't
bread.
tease.
And so you could practically float on the smell of actual freshly baked bread. And so you note that there are 2 loaves that are quite literally even slightly steaming as you walk in, and you can see them sitting on a wood block from where they have been removed clearly recently from the oven. One of them looks to have speckles on it. It may be some kind of rye bread, perhaps. And the other seems to be this golden brown kind of wheat mixture. And he says, yes, 2 loaves. You see, one of the things that I try to do is to make sure that I bring in some wheat and flour that I have made and make sure that I keep them within my larder. Important to make at least 1 loaf of bread per day. And then he kind of looks nervous. Occasionally 2. Depending on appetites. But let's not talk about that. There are 2, and there are 2 of you, and 1 of me, and so, well, that means I'm going to have to bake another loaf, won't I? Well, in the meantime, we can sit down and enjoy this, and you must tell me everything, absolutely everything about the world beyond. Bolo, I expect full discussions of everything you promised. I expect that you found treasures and adventures and encounters, and I must know of them all. I see you're making tea. For the first time, he realizes that you've actually been making tea, and he's like, yes, well, that's wonderful. Sir, do you wish some tea? I also have perhaps a little bit of wine or water. What would you prefer?
Tea would be lovely, thank you.
And he says, very well, I have several different kinds, but I think you'll find this, which is taken from my own garden, the leaves that I've carefully cultivated over the years. I'm very proud of this blend. And so he sets the kettle on the fire, and the entire experience is as homey as you might expect. This place just radiates this comfortable warmth, but it is important to note that it is not a kind of dry and crackling kind of warmth. It feels somehow as if it is just kind of healthy, like you're just settled in underneath a blanket and there's a hot water bottle next to you and you can just feel the steam kind of rising, that you can kind of just breathe in and out into your lungs. And he sits down at the table with you after you've got all the tea set, and he kind of looks expectantly and he says, well, tell me everything, Bolo, and please, if he forgets anything, he says to you, Tani, please make sure to fill them in. I want to know about how Bjorn is doing as well. Dear Bjorn, I'd love to hear more about him, but I also wish to know of your adventures. Tell me everything. And you notice, Bolo, as he's doing this, that his hand goes back down to pat at his vest pocket.
Mm. Yeah, I launch into the tale, like first meeting, the group and meeting Bard, talking about all the different adventures, and I skip over like the heavy parts for the time being.
Okay.
And I do fill him in about the treasure that we had discussed that I found and saw, the shirt of Mithril, I think it was, and that ended up figuring into our adventures, and finish up with the journey here, and just mention at the end, this is a very welcome trip home. I think after some dark moments, I needed this. So thank you for hosting us, Bilbo.
Oh, it is my great pleasure. I would love you to stay here for as long as you wish. But go back a little bit, my boy. You said something about this shirt of yours, this mithril thing that you found. You were talking about it, but you paused. And you see for the first time his kind of jovial, pleased, happy face, which always has a grin, grows serious, and he says, What did it feel like for you, my boy, when you first saw it, I mean?
Well, I will admit to you, Bilbo, that when I left the Shire, I was I was in search of treasure. I put treasure above other things, and I came to realize that that isn't the most important thing that we should be searching for, and that in fact those treasures are tied to many things. They have a history of their own. They mean other things, and that was shown to me when I saw that mithril shirt, and not just saw it, but learned of its history and its import, and how it can affect the dealings of man and dwarves and elves and more. And so that is the greatest treasure I've found on this journey so far, is that it isn't the things that we value on the surface. It's the things that we hold in our hearts that are most important.
And he kind of leans back, chair creaks slightly, and he says, Ah, yes. So as you say, my boy, you have found treasure. The treasure I might have hoped you would have discovered yourself. You see, it's very difficult to explain to anyone before they go what happens on an adventure. It seems to you happen to it as much as it happens to you, I suppose. And you return from it learning that you are both changed and changing at the same time. In a way, the return home here was a great comfort to me. But my heart, though it remains here, will always in part at times wander elsewhere. That, I'm afraid, is the took in you, my boy. There are parts of you that will want to leave and find other things, and yet in the end, the only thing that holds us together are our memories of the people we care about, the places that matter to us. You're right. Shiny things are, well, shiny, but they are limited. And if they can simply bring you away to get closer to others, that is worth it. A dear friend of mine once told me that if more people valued food and good company and cheer over hoarded gold, it would be a merrier world. And I have not forgotten him. No, even now. And his eyes kind of drift off, and you can see his hand sort of settle on that vest pocket again. And then he says, But, in any case, this is wonderful news, though. Wonderful to hear that you've had a chance to go see these things, though I am troubled that the dwarves and men managed to, well, had some difficulties with things, at least in addressing who would own that shirt. But you did very well, my boy, you and your friends. Bringing men and dwarves together is not always the easiest thing. Believe me, I know. And it's good to see that you were able to bring a little bit of that hobbit sense to them. They are often far too busy concerned with their larger affairs and the big dooming, booming moments of time and blah, 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 blah. Meh. The truth is that many of them can't get out of their own way, and what they are most in want of is the need of, well, a simple hobbit sometimes to set them right. Now, your great adventuring friends, I hope that you've been able to do that for them. I know something of these woodsmen of Roscabel, and they are, from what I have understood, very brave people, but, well, sometimes they can grow a bit caught up in those things, concerns of them, and concerns of the dwarves, of course. Well, hard-headed is the dwarf, and even harder-headed is the dwarf who believes they have some place to go. So I hope that you've been able to bring that dwarf to heel a little bit, at least, somewhat. And he kind of sort of looks at you and smiles. You have been able to hold your own with them, I hope, Bolo.
Well, I hope I have, and I hope in my travels that I've brought a bit of the Shire elsewhere, which I think is needed.
Desperately needed, my boy, desperately. And he turns to you, Tawny. Did he bring anything to you? I hope that he's brought some of the Shire. The Bjornings, of course, they're spectacular with honey. By the way, the honey you brought is like half gone already. And you were currently in this conversation. There are 2 more loaves being baked as you're in the midst of like you're in that moment where everyone's looking at the rump of the second loaf and no one wants to be the one who's like, I'll take it, but everyone actually desperately wants to take the last one. So you're in this little dance. And but he says, of course, there's your spectacular food in terms of, well, raw, cooked meat and naturally honey and so forth. But, well, to be quite honest, and with no offense meant at all, well, there's some difficulty the Bjornings have with, more refined foods, cooking more things, you understand. So I hope he brought some of that knowledge to you and yours.
Not just to me and mine. He also brought it to the city of Dale.
Dale itself, that's right. And how is Bard? And how are those people? He says that to both of you.
Well, I'll just mention quickly the battered mug and jumping off of what Tani had said. We found this lovely little place in Dale and needed a bit of attention. And I've found this very bright girl that we've brought into our care there, and I'm helping her along with her cooking skills. And we hope to enliven that part of the city. And Bard himself, I will admit I don't know terribly well. Tani knows him better than I do, but it was very impressive meeting him. He seems a fair man.
He was, at least as far as I knew him. Grim he always was, always dour, but I suppose that's what happens when you spend your time warning people of attacks that eventually do come. But brave. And, indeed, the people of that land need bravery more than anything else. I would hope that Dane and Bard have still been able to maintain their friendship. Certainly, men and dwarves being connected together is as good a bar to the rise again of orcs and goblins as any I can imagine, or dragons, though I certainly hope you won't encounter any more of them. One was quite enough for me.
I think I've seen him smile 3 times.
And he sighs. Yes, unfortunately, they can't take a joke, these people. That's their problem. And they also have difficulty ever, well, just for a moment, thinking that they're not quite filled with as many titles. My heavens, do you know the titles they tried to assign to me afterwards? Dragon, Slayer of the Dragon, Information Broker of the blah, blah, blah. What nonsense! I am simply Bilbo Baggins of the Shire, and I was happy to be back here and back among my own sensible people. But, that said, well, there were some nice, shiny things, I suppose. But none of them mattered as much as, of course, the friendships I had. You know that Balin and Gandalf not all that long ago came to visit me here, and it was wonderful to speak of those old times. I haven't gotten over that thought, someday. Someday to maybe go off and see the elves again. My. Well, that'll be for some time in the future, no doubt. Again, pats his vest pocket. But for right now, I have to live vicariously through you, my boy, and send you off to do, well, to live the adventures that I once have. But fear not, I'm not so old a hobbit yet as I don't remember certain things. Oh, and that reminds me, Bolo, I have a gift for you. I've been saving it for a long time, and I had in fact planned to give it to you before you left the first time, and, well, there I was. I clean forgot about it, but I have not forgotten this time. And he gets up and he bustles off, and you hear from outside of the room, you hear, well, truthfully, there's not much of a... And you hear, like, books falling, and I thought I had it right in the spot where... And then there's just this massive crash of books, and you hear just, like, I'm sure... And then there's one more crash, and then you hear this, like, metal sound of a win, as if something is finally just hitting the ground, and then slight dust kind of filters into the kitchen. And he comes in bearing, Bolo, this enormous leather-bound book. Now, when I say enormous, I mean this thing has got to be a foot thick, and just like top to bottom of it, and just about maybe a foot to 2 feet. Like, he basically staggers under the weight of this thing as he comes in. And then he says, oh, Tawny Bear, if you wouldn't mind just clearing off a little room for me. And he does that. And you do that literally just seconds before he no longer can hold the weight of this thing. And the table rattles and whatever, and a little bit of dust comes up. And he says, yes, I'm so happy to have been able to get this to you. Now, as you're looking at this, Bolo, this massive thing, like, I mean, you know, certainly Tawny could carry it, but it would be probably heavy for Tawny after a while, too. This thing's enormous. And so you're just kind of like, and he says, well, there you are. He kind of smiles at you, Bolo.
Yeah. I'll look at the cover for a title, and if it's not there, I'll pop the book open and just see what it is.
And when you pop the book open, you see
a mimic.
No. Yeah, exactly. A mimic which attacks you. No. Roll initiative. No, this is not that kind of game.
Yeah.
When you open it up, you actually see that the inside of it does not have pages. Indeed, it looks like it is a chest which has been cunningly crafted to resemble a book. And inside it, there are two things that you find. There is a much smaller, like rational-sized, normal book. And there is also a golden inkwell and a golden quill.
Ooh.
And he smiles and just sort of folds his arms and looks as you are looking at all these things.
Well, you pull out the book and do the same thing.
So
there's a smaller book inside.
Yeah, that's right. No, it's just nesting dolls all the way down. No.
Yeah.
No. When you open this second book, you can see that there's nothing on the front of it. It is leather bound, beautiful, by the way. But on the inside of it, you can see that in beautiful flowing script has been written, "The adventures of a young hobbit, comma, and what he discovered there, ... And on the inside of it, you see that it is, like one page further, the Chronicles of Bolabras Took, underlined. And then he says, now, my boy, I kept a diary, a memoir, if you will, myself, of my own travels, and it is something that I plan to write into something. I haven't thought of the name yet. There and here again? There and somewhere? I haven't figured it out, but someday I will figure
here
it out
and there
for certain.
Again.
Yes, that could be.
You start here.
Upstairs, downstairs. Perhaps that's it. I haven't. But someday I will figure out this title, and I look forward to producing it. Sadly, the publication industry is quite slow these days, and he kind of goes to looks down, weeps for a moment, and the authors in the call with me all smile with the inside joke. Yeah. I was waiting for all the authors to be like, Anyway,
the ship got stuck in the Anduin.
Whatever. I get one moment of self-indulgence. But then he says, but in the meantime, I have written this exactly, Triffid, too real. But I produced this for you. You see, you also, if you're to be a real young adventuring hobbit, need to not just experience, but to report back. How else will you get these boffinses and brace girdles and proud feet, whatever they call themselves these days. How will you get those people a bit of culture, instead of just thinking that the only thing that matters are the potatoes that they dig from the earth every season? Don't get me wrong, they're good, steady people. I love all of them. It's why I wanted to return here, but my goodness, there are times when one wishes for more discussion than the local vintage of mead, and that's what you're here for, my boy. Here is a journal. This paper has been specially treated. In fact, if I may say, it was a bit of a technique brought to me by a certain significant elf. More significant, perhaps, because he knows so many other of the elves. It was he who gave this book to me, and the inkwell and quill. But he gave me, when he did so, 2 of them. I said, "Why are you giving me 2?" And he said, "Because you will have a friend someday, someone who will want to take adventures, and you must pass on what you know to them, Bilbo." As if he were putting me out to pasture immediately. Well, I am doing it before I reach an age so old that I cannot even know who I am looking at. And so, I am bequeathing this book to you. I actually wrote this page some time ago. Well, several months. I did not know when I would see you again, though I expected I would. This quill will not easily bend or break, and this inkwell is of a most marvelous construction. You see, the ink to be found within it will never dry, and if you use it to write upon the pages of this book, you will find that the pages so made will not easily yellow, and the ink itself will not fade. Indeed, you will find that the inkwell here will continually produce that ink as long as it is used with this golden quill. I am giving this gift to you, Bolo, on one condition only." And he leans very close so you can see his round, earnest eyes, and he says, "You must tell me the story of everything you find. And you must tell others too, not just me, but to everyone who has a chance to read the work that you do. I don't expect you to keep diary entries every day, mind you, but when you have moments of rest, times to sit back, have a smoke, a drink, perhaps, well, eat some bread," and all of a sudden the smell, "Oh, the bread!" And he stands up and immediately goes over to the oven, pulls it open. Again, spectacular smells come out. And he says, yes, certainly would not want to scorch it. And he takes the bread out and puts it aside to cool, and then closes the oven again. And he says, "So, if you are able to, when you can, update this journal, I think you will find it will be a gift not only for those who read it, but for you. You realize that besides friendship, memory is perhaps our greatest commodity. It is the memory of the friends that we've made, not simply those friends themselves that matter. And they will keep us warm when the weather grows cold, Bolo."
Bolo looks at the book itself, kind of examines it with widened eyes, and kind of flips through the pages and looks at the inkwell and the quill, and looks at the ink itself and smells it, and stoppers it back up and says, "Bolo, Bilbo, this truly is a treasure. Thank you so much. I will record everything, even the things I've done so far, and will do. And one day you'll hear those stories."
He says, all right, and I'm going to hold you to that. And he points at you, Tani, and he says, you need to make sure that he occasionally writes on this thing. I mean, just once in a while, not all the time. He says, sort of sits back in his chair, and he says, "Now the question is, where will you head next? I assume you're going to return east of the mountains again, but where then? What are you intending to do?"
We've been summoned by, forgive me, who summoned us?
King Dane.
Dane.
Who Bilbo certainly knows.
And so we're heading to Iron Hills, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, so I tell Bilbo that King Dane has summoned us. I haven't been yet, but I'm very much looking forward to going to the Iron Hills to meet him and hear what he has to say.
But that's strange. I thought that King Dane was himself in the Lonely Mountain. That is his seat of power, I thought. And it occurs to you, Bolo, that that's true, that Dane, normally his area is in the Lonely Mountain, but that he very clearly summoned you to come to the Iron Hills, not the Lonely Mountain, for whatever reason.
Okay.
And
I don't remember the circumstance, or I don't know the circumstances about why he's gone to that. Do we know?
He has not said. I mean, I don't want to actually give anything away except to say that, I mean, you certainly know that there have, like, based on the experiences you've had over the last few adventures, you know that there are currently some issues between men and dwarves, and specifically that there are some craftsmen of the Iron Hills who have raised problems, raised concerns about the fact that, their craft is being diluted and they're selling it too much to, people that aren't dwarves and all that kind of thing. So
I'll mention
maybe that's something to do with it.
Yeah. I'll mention that to Bilbo and just say, hopefully there's no great strife on the way. In fact, hopefully this will help the people's men, the dwarves and men, and the troubles that they've had of late.
And he says, well, I hope that will be the case. I would suggest, by the way, that if you don't want to bring this chest, which is perhaps slightly overweighed, you can see that the table even looks slightly bowed below the weight of this container. He's like, perhaps it's a little much, but, well, the reason I kept these things there, you see, was to prevent them from being seen. It's a strange thing how the heart of man and the man's vision can be dazzled by the sight of gold and treasure, and sometimes to great cost. So, although I think it is, of course, important for you to bring this out and write around friends, I would be careful about showing off the golden inkwell and the golden quill in uncertain company. It is possible that some may be drawn more to the material of these things than the material that they write, though they're fools to think so, for nothing is more valuable than what we can create with this pen, not the pen itself. But you know how the big people are, and he kind of nudges you with an elbow.
You're right, Bilbo, and I will guard this carefully. Thank you again.
And he smiles and nods. He says, well, I can see that already your friend here has begun to nod off. And indeed, you can see that Tawny is sort of gradually drifting down below. And he says, well, fear not. I have something large enough even for you. It is my very best bed. I keep it here specifically in case the big people wish to visit. And if I may say, it is probably the best such bed that exists within the Shire. Can you imagine? Some of them don't even have beds at all. They sleep on straw. Well, that's fine when one's traveling, but when inside, I would prefer softness. And he stands up and he says, of course, you may, because it's now pretty late at night, actually, because you've been talking long into the night. And he says, right this way. The washroom, of course, is down there. Tea, of course, will be in the morning, and I'll be happy to make you breakfast as well. What are your orders? And if you wouldn't mind, please make sure you do them slowly. The last time that I took a breakfast order, I missed half of it. There were 13 of them coming in, and it was rather difficult. And so he basically takes your orders for breakfast the next day. And since this is clearly the food episode, please lay it on thick. What kind of food do you want? We talking about like omelets, like drop the knowledge on me. What do we want?
Some rashers of bacon, some toast, of course.
Yep. Tell me more.
Perhaps have a bit more honey.
Okay.
Some eggs, if we could, fried.
I love it. Fried eggs. Okay. Sounds good.
A bit of blood sausage if you have any.
Okay. Sounds like a plan. Chad, are you getting all this? I want to be clear. Half of Chad has gone to build food.
Fried tomatoes would be nice.
And mushrooms, yes.
I have a quick question. I'm sorry if this was addressed, but it's suddenly been on my mind. Hobbit holes are like sort of underground. Does Bolo feel at all like does his discomfort extend to being in a Hobbit hole, or is that just like not sufficiently deep or below the earth?
I'm going to come to that because one of the things we talked about doing was the idea of healing corruption. And that is part of the connection to this idea.
Okay, sorry. Never mind. I didn't want to interrupt. My curiosity was getting the better of me.
It's a good question. So yes, Tawny, do you have any orders beyond that?
Cottage cheese.
He says, ha 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 ha. He says the best. So few people understand the value of cottage cheese. Lore Master side note: cottage cheese is delicious and is underrated. Okay, and so he smiles and says, "The best, and I think you'll find that it is not only delicious but also nourishing, along with the rest of this, of course." All right, then, and he kind of marks down a couple things, and he puts this back in his pocket. And you notice that, so again, he has the vest pocket with a watch, and he puts it back in his pocket, and sort of his hand rests there for a little while and then pats it again. And he says, "Right, well, off to bed then we should be. Again, washroom down the way. Here's your room, Bolo." And your room, Bolo, is a very comfortable, very solid hobbit hole room with a bed and with, a side table. There's a lantern that already has some little oil that's burning in it, so you can see. Very comfortable. There are several pictures also of green fields that are set around the hole. And then Tani, yours is what looks like at some point it probably was like a converted like wine cellar or something, but it's much bigger, and there is indeed a large bed. It's actually a bed large enough to accommodate you, but it's sort of like put right in the middle of the space, as if he was like, "I don't really know what we do here, but like have a big bed." So, but it's a comfortable big bed, and and it is totally indoors, but and there is again a side table with a lantern there. And
Okay.
yes, true. Inferior cottage cheese is terrible. That's true, Triffid. But good cottage cheese is amazing. Okay, so and so what I wanted to have you do, Bolo, is I'm going to have you make your healing corruption roll, but I'm going to make an offer for you. I'm going to give you another one of these classic what if possibilities. I'm going to give you the opportunity to remove your miserable when underground condition. And you're doing it largely based on the conversation you've just had with Bilbo, because it has occurred to you that you do not feel your typical sense of sadness and, despair and fear being underground the way that you did before. And yet, as was pointed out, you clearly are underground. That's what the Hobbit hole is. But you don't feel that way. So I'm going to give you an opportunity if you wish to remove this, but the bargain here is, if you remove that, you can't also remove the shadow points, not on this one. So you can either remove your miserable when underground condition, assuming your roll is successful, or you can remove your shadow point. You can remove, I think it's 2 shadow points, 1 or 2 shadow points, I have to look at it, based upon the success or failure of the roll that you make. So I'm giving you an opportunity to do that. Normally you wouldn't be able to do so, but narrative conditions have led us to this point.
With this, the whole purpose of this journey was to sort of, reground himself, get away from the darkness, that he'd been experiencing. And so I think it makes narrative sense to try to get rid of that condition. So I'm going to opt for that.
Dig it. I thought you might. Let's see. So let's talk about that roll, and let's see if we can do it. And chat, inspiration may be possible here. Don't do it yet, but there may be an opportunity, chat, if you wish to help Bolo out. If you love the role play as much as I do, watching Bolo back and forth with this, then maybe you want to help a brother out here, but we'll see. So
help a Bolo out.
Let's help a Bolo help a Bolo out. Okay. So 190. Right. Okay. So yes, heal corruption. So what that means is you need to make a wisdom insight ability check. This is a wisdom insight ability check. So chat, you can inspire on this if you wish. You could inspire this roll if anyone wishes to do that. So it is up to chat whether or not they wish to make this inspiration possible. And technically, I mean, it's also up to Bolo and Brad. I mean, you could also be like, the hell with you. Yes, someone named Amal has inspired. I can't imagine. Seems logical. And quite good time to do it. All right, so you're going to make this roll an inspiration. This is a insight ability check that you're making.
All right, here we go.
Okay. So we're looking at the 11.
One above 10 and one below 10. I don't know which one I need.
One below 10, yeah. Let's see, because you got the 0 on that. Okay. So, how do I want to do this? So as you're lying in bed, Bolo, and kind of like looking up at the ceiling and looking at the green fields and that sort of thing, you think quite a bit about the experience that you've had, and also about sort of that impression of Bilbo's hand going back to his vest pocket, and the things that he mentioned about friendships, and all of that stuff kind of passes through your mind. Oh, I didn't realize that I could substitute this too. Don't want to miss. Now I'm thinking about whether I should.
For those of you listening at home, the DM is not finishing his sentences.
Right, because I'm trying to think out loud. No, I'll keep it this one. So, at a certain point, Bolo, you can see, as you're thinking about things, your eyes fall upon the book and the inkwell and the quill that are sitting on the side table by the side of your bed, and that are closed and just sitting there. Do you want to do anything with those, or just kind of leave them as you sort of drift off?
Do anything with the book and the inkwell?
I'm not leaving you one way or the other, by the way. I'm just asking.
Yeah, no. I'm before I go to bed. I am tired, but I'll take it out, and I will. I'm going to start my journey, the book, with that meeting of this group. Like when I first came upon them with the message, and so I'll write just literally the first paragraph of meeting them, holding that message, and then I'll blow the ink dry, close the book, and then go to bed.
I'm going to give you +2 to that roll, and that means that I'm going to say that the miserable condition is indeed removed. When you wake up the next morning, you wake up feeling deeply refreshed. Much more than you had felt previous, and feeling optimistic, excited but grounded, perhaps, rather than excited but with no idea what you face. You know what you face now, but you also feel perhaps better able to handle it.
Right.
Tani, for your part, by the way, you also slept well, although frankly, sleeping in a hobbit hole is a sort of an odd experience, but it was still a rather comfortable one, and most importantly, absolute peace. In fact, there is a clock ticking outside in Bilbo's thing. It's just like very, slow, but that's it. Like, you don't get anyone, there's no, noise of creatures moving around or, anything like that to disturb you. And so you also, I would say, wake pretty refreshed. And also both of you wake to the delightful experience of smelling breakfast wafting in. It smells like omelets. You smell clearly sizzling, and here too, sizzling bacon. It smells delicious, like grabbing you and pulling you on its trails of scent into the kitchen where it goes.
Very, very
You were like waving.
Yeah, exactly. When you get in there, by the way, there are 3 more freshly baked loaves of bread. And you see for the first time that there are 2 enormous sacks of flour. One looks to be like rye flour and one wheat flour that are just sitting on the floor. And Bilbo himself has got an apron on and has got just splashes of flour and everything everywhere. And he says, "Oh, yes, welcome. Well, you're all up late." It's really not very late, but he's just like, "Well, I'm all prepared. I thought that this might be a better alarm clock for all of you." And he points over, and there's just like a stack of bacon, eggs, bread, butter, to the nines, like just off the hook.
That'll do for me. What are you going to
Yeah, I know. What are me and Bilbo going to eat?
He says, "Well, I'm glad that you asked." And you notice that as he sort of moves, you see that there's a tray of more food that's like behind him. And he says, "Well, this is for you. Then I have to make my breakfast." So the food, which we won't go through here, is spectacular, though. Delicious. And the morning passes quite charmingly before, and it's up to you two as to when you decide you want to leave again. If you wanted to stay several days, you could do that, or you could leave immediately. That's up to you. We don't have to RP all that out, but I just...
Yeah. One thing I will do is, like for the afternoon, for 11sies or something like that, I'm going to make some honey cakes.
What about fourth breakfast? Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
I'm going to use flank sear to make, like one of the special batches of honey cakes with pecans on top that I collected along the way, something like that, and make sure Bilbo has a chance to taste something I made before I leave.
Well, when you do that and you give this to him, so he has his usual smile and he's just like, well, and then and his face kind of contorts, and he starts looking like, this is, I'm going to put on cams only for this. This is spectacular. This is wonderful. Where did you make this from this, that you call this thing flank zero? This is food producer. There must be a better title. Will you tell this boy to make better titles? He says to you, Tawny, I appeal to you. There's madness. They don't know what they're missing. Wonderful. Spectacular. You notice that somehow in between words, he's managed to eat like 2/3 more of the actual honey cake. I don't really understand how it's able to be this. Yes, well, that's lovely. It's wonderful. You must give me the recipe. Actually, you must tell me where I can find more of these flank searers. My goodness. And, he insists that you give him all the information about flank searer and where it was seasoned and like all this stuff. He's exceedingly impressed.
Yeah, we'll enjoy that, and I'll using the ink that I have, but on a different piece of paper, I'll write down the recipe for him and such, and then tell Tawny, maybe it's time that we head out before it gets too dark.
And he says, well, it has been a wonderful pleasure to have both of you here. I have not enjoyed myself this much in several months, and I hope you'll be able to make your way back here. My house is open to you if you ever come back this way. Tea is at 4, but any of you are both welcome, of course, at any time. And besides that, he says, that means you too, sir. Please convey my best to Bjorn, but also please return yourself. If you happen to accidentally have several containers of honey fall into your pack, I would certainly be amenable to that. And as proof that I am no thief, he turns around and puts like 4 completed loaves, and sort of stuffs them into a sack, which he then gives to you. So you're just holding a sack of bread, and he's just like, now I will say that this may attract attention, but I imagine you can keep all of them off and long enough for you to consume this food yourself. That should last you for an hour anyway. And he says, Tawny Bear, it has been a pleasure to meet you, Othane. And he kind of bows his head.
And Tawny returns the bow and... Ow! Okay, there we go. I think that's better now.
He says, are you all right? I don't know.
Yeah, so just had a cramp I needed to work out. The ceilings are a tad low, but I have scarcely in my life encountered a host as gracious as you have been for the last day, Master Baggins.
He bows his head. He says, any hosting ability I have learned has come from people I've met, and I have not forgotten how it was a certain Bjorning who, when we were most in need, was the most generous of hosts. If I have returned it in some small measure, it is more than any hobbit deserved. And he bows, thank you. And then he turns to you, Bolo, and he sort of sees you and then gives you a hug, and he says, looking at the picture and going, why are the pictures wrong? And then he remembers that somebody's internet fell. No, it's okay. It's totally fine. I just forgot. And so I was like, wait, you're not. I looked at Bolo's page. I'm like, wait, that's
no, you and I are fine.
I'm so confused. Okay, there we go.
It's
my fault. All right, so there we go. Now we're all set. So he looks at you, Bolo, and he says, now remember, my boy, all of the people that you travel with, you can learn something from all of them. But remember, as you're learning from those around you, they also must learn from you. Take some of what you have from the Shire. The greenness, the comfort, the warmth, yes? Don't forget those things, even when you're in deepest darkness. Even when, and you can see his hands sneaking down to his vest pocket, even when it feels as though hope has abandoned you. Remember, warmth and care and comfort. And he leans in. And bread. And don't forget about that journal. I expect a full, complete, and spectacularly written memoir by the time you return.
Thank you so much, Bilbo. This journey was needed, and this has lifted a great weight from my shoulders. And I almost forgot. And I take out, I think it runs in the family. It must. And I show him the wreath that I made on the way here, and I put it on his door, the front door, before we head out. And we'll be seeing you again someday soon, Bilbo.
And he he admires the wreath, and he says, just perfectly symmetrical, and I love everything about the way it highlights the doorknob, and wonderful. I'll have to see how I can preserve it. And he smiles and he says, thank you, Bolo. Once a took, always a took. And he kind of bumps you in the shoulder, and then says, all right, the two of you take care of each other. The wild is still the wild. And make sure you return. We will have more tales and bread and honey to pass back and forth in.
Wave farewell and head out.
And your last image of him is him smiling with his thumbs in his vest pockets, kind of smiling as you watch, kind of rocking back and forth as you leave that behind. With that lovely moment of role play with everybody, I'm going to take a moment to pause and welcome everybody to day 35 of Adventures of Middle-earth Erebor Adventures, Sleeping Dragon's Lie, although I think we're only going to just get to Sleeping Dragon's Lie, but we will today. But I am joined as always by Trendane Sparks, by Brad Bollier, by Terry Toons, and by Amal Elmatar, wonderful players all. So now I think we can jump forward in time to the day, basically the morning before we leave Haven. This is, again, en route to the Iron Hills, where they have all been sent because they've been called for, I should say. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that there was something which the river wanted to manage just before we set off to finish our path towards the Iron Hills.
I think you had said that Vig wanted to talk to River. Yes. So yeah, I think that early River wakes like an idealized version of myself very early, usually is sort of up at the crack of dawn. We'll go to find Vig at his forge in the just go to find Vig at his forge in the kind of midst of getting things ready for the journey.
Okay, hold on, just responding to something in chat. Hold on one second. Okay, I just responded to the question that was brought up in chat. So let me know if that's okay.
I think that's fine.
Is that okay? Is that okay? I don't want.
Let's keep it low.
Yep, that's fine. Cool.
Okay. Cool.
All right. So, when you're about to depart, Vig comes up to you and he says, "Excuse me, mistress. I was hoping I could speak to you just for a moment, if that's all right."
Of course, Vig. What's on your mind?
Well, you see, and he kind of looks back at the at Haven and he says, you see, we've made some advancements, right? Some increased our defenses here. We've got the blacksmith, me, and we've got others that are coming into play, and of course the people that we've got them, and there's all that sort of thing. But you see, I'm a little worried. There's nothing I can put my finger on mine, but there's people that I've seen coming by here. Some that, I don't really know whether, no one bad, you understand, but I've seen people on horseback ride by sometimes, and, according to Ash, we're not to turn anyone away from Haven. That's not the point, and I understand that, but, some of these look to be ill-favored to me. At least the way they looked at this place seemed, I don't know, greedy somehow. And, well, my concern is, I don't know about how well defended we are here. I mean, we have good people, but if someone were to fall upon us in the night, an attack or something, if there was an orc raid or anything like that, we'd be helpless, and these people might not make it. Defense, you see, is sometimes the only way to maintain peace, even though that's all we mean for anyone else. I lived my whole life learning that you have to attack others before they attack you, and now I'm told that that's not how it works, and I've had to learn it, but I'm just worried about the safety of this place. And I wondered if there was anything you could think of to maybe help, or perhaps that you could do.
River takes this in and looks thoughtful and quiet, and then she reaches out a hand and puts it on his shoulder and says, I think it speaks very well of you, Big, to have such a care for this place and to care so much for its safety and its inhabitants. And I think that what you've said is testament to Haven's greatest strength, which is that it will take in people like yourself who will want to look out for it and want to defend it. I think that if you take these concerns to Ash, she'll also listen to this. Ash is no stranger to hard times and fierce fights and great difficulty. And I think that your words about defense are very well advised. In fact, let me say it to you. What do you think Haven needs in terms of defense that its current inhabitants aren't already up to providing? Or is it just that you feel it needs more time?
Well, if I may say, if it were really totally up to me, the thing that would be the most important is, well, walls. But that's not what Haven is, I know. It's not about walls or a fortress. But at least if we had more knowledge of the lands around, scouts and things like that to be able to send around, so that we knew what the circumstances were. Here we're, well, in the middle of the open, and we can see things from a distance, but not long enough. If we had scouts out there who could come around, who were well armored and trained, you understand, so they wouldn't be caught, they could go out 2-3 days, and they could give us advance warning of anything that was coming in our direction. Then we might have time to be able to go the rest of the way. It's time and training, I guess, that we need the most. And so, I know you've been sending all these people who need protection and help, and like I said, they're good people, and some of them can fight, but not all of them. And some of them are ones who are done fighting. That's why they came here. So I want to honor that. But I also want to have a way to keep us secure. And just relying on Ash and those ones that were slaves, and people like me, that might not be enough to protect some of the other people that have come. So, time and training and scouting mostly.
I hear what you're saying. I wonder, is there not a tower that's in some disrepair nearby?
Aye, the ravens are there. But that's the ravens, well, that's where they live, I think. We've not really gone there very much. We thought it was their place to have. We didn't want to disturb them. Not many dwarves here,
It occurs to me, perhaps there are 2 things that I would suggest, if possible. Oh, actually, so I'm making an assumption that Inga has, told River about the ravens. I don't know if she has or not, or if she would.
Did that happen yet?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
It happened.
Yeah, it happened last night.
What time of day is it right now?
Early morning.
So she would have been back pretty late, and Inge would probably then sleeping in. So probably not. No, wouldn't have had the chance yet. Like, she would tell her eventually, but like, like.
No, that works fine. But like River knows about like connections between dwarves and ravens.
Yes,
and
for
stuff.
sure.
And,
yeah.
So I think what River will say is, no, it only puts in my mind the thought that perhaps watchtowers rather than walls might be helpful. But also, as you say, the ravens are there, and we are trying to build closer friendships with the dwarves. Perhaps we can invite the ravens into Haven's circle of friendship, and if they would consent to scouting for us, that might be even more effective than arming people and training them, which I'm not against, obviously, but recognizing the constraints of time and the tensions everywhere presently, I'll speak to Inga, and perhaps she'll have some insight into this. If we could speak to the ravens and build friendships with them, that would be something I would very much love to see.
And he nods seriously and he says, "Oh, thank you, mistress. That's exactly what I was hoping, that you'd have some knowledge about that. In the meantime, I can tell you that, well, we're doing what we can to build up armor and weapons here, and again, doing some training. Some of them, like I said, the ones who are still willing to fight. We got some who already can and some who are raw, but there's some potential there, I think. And so that would be helpful. And also, I'll try to keep wind of some of my old contacts back in the city. Perhaps if they give me information, I can use that too. But anything you could do would be helpful, and I'm grateful to you. Thank you."
Well, when I ride now to the Iron Hills, it is to open a sanctuary there. And my hope is very much that we can build closer connections with the Iron Hills and Haven, and just have it be exactly what its name says, a midway point between Dale and further adventure.
I've heard rumors that men and dwarves are struggling a bit. If it's anything like what it was when I was back in the city, if we can do something to change that, that'll be better. Perhaps make it less likely that some filth like Longo can get a hold again.
At Longo's name, River's whole body sort of slowly clenches for a second,
yeah.
And then she just kind of makes a visible effort to relax and nod and say, "Yes. I can't begin to tell you, Big, how much I appreciate you coming to me with this, and just hearing how much you feel protective of what we're building here. It really means a great deal to me. I'm very grateful that you took up the offer and came."
And he says, "Well, mistress, I'm not much for talking, but if I may say, the only reason I was even alive to be able to do anything was because of what you and the others showed me. I never actually thought anyone could treat anyone else with understanding, to be honest. So I'm just..."
River just sort of interrupts what he's saying to like pull him into a big hug.
He seems very like, like, well, he says, "Right, well,
it's like a manly hug.
Of course. No, I know, but it's not that.
It's kind of like thumping his back kind of hug.
No, of course.
And just like,
no, it's more just like,
yeah.
And he's just like, well, yeah. And he's sort of like, I'm grateful, mistress, and it's the fact that you all took time to pay attention to some nothing piece of ground swill like me."
Now, don't talk about yourself like that. I won't have it.
Well, I did want to say that if there's ever a need for you to get anything of yours, weapons, armor, anything like that, fixed up, I can do what I can. It'll take a little while. Our forges aren't dwarven forges, and they're not so hot, but we'll get it there eventually. We're making progress, and I'd be happy to help any way I can if there's ever a need.
Thank you, Vig. I do actually. I love my armor. It served me very well. But I feel like I wouldn't mind just a little less give in it. It moves with me very quietly, but something just a half inch further between me and all the skewering that tends to happen to me mysteriously over time. Wouldn't go amiss.
So he says, it'll take time, but if you bring it back, I'll be able to tend to it, mistress, and I'll get that thing. It'll look like, well, by the time it's all said and done, it'll be like a fortress. They won't be able to get into that. They won't. And I promise you that. I'll have it tested on myself. He looks very but and he sort of sizes it up. He says, I can see there's been some scratches there and scars and I should be able to, perhaps an 1/8 inch of this. And he's like, immediately is off into the classic shop talk that anyone who's ever dealt with anyone, a contractor, knows exactly what I'm talking about. Like, just kind of like, oh, blah, 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 blah. And he's just like, right, I'll be happy to do that, mistress. And by the time you're back, we'll be able to get that thing fixed up. And we'll keep you healthy. That's important. Ash has made it very clear it was important, too. She said, if anything happens to you, every one of us would know it. I mean, not that we needed reminding, but, mistress, when Ash wants things done, she's very convincing.
It's true. It's true.
Mechanically, I want to say, Amal, that the implication of this is, I need you to write this down so that you don't forget, and I won't forget either, that during the next fellowship phase, one of the things that you can do if you choose to is you can basically choose an undertaking which will improve your armor, and it literally involves going back to Haven, and then they are going to be the ones who attend to that. It'll be a fellowship phase, but it'll be worth it in terms of the armor improvement. So I'm just letting you know.
Yeah. Awesome.
Cool. With that said, is there anything else that Inga and needs to do? You can all fill each other in on things, but I want to try to move us forward if we can to the Iron Hills, if we're able to do that. But it's up to you folks if there's anything else that's missing.
I think that River will want to talk to Inga about the potential Raven situation, and then maybe be startled by the fact that Inga has just accepted a quest from the Raven.
Okay, so she goes to ask hey, you can do anything about the Ravens, right? So Inga's River comes to Inga and asks that, right?
Yeah.
So Inga's actually, what a coincidence!
Funny you should mention that.
Puts 2 fingers in her mouth and whistles, and this massive raven comes to fly by and sits in the sits down on the window bench. Window bench? Is that a thing? Windowsill? Is that what you call it?
Windowsill, yes.
Yeah. So this here is my new friend Freaky.
And it turns its head.
River's face is a combination of heart eyes, giant heart eyes of she is simultaneously super shy and also extremely loving of this beautiful gigantic bird that has landed, and is just when did this hello and sorry, what's its name again? Freaky. Freaky. River looks at the raven and sort of just bows.
And the raven with very intelligent eyes bows its head back.
So I'm assuming that this is happening while Inga's having a very late breakfast because she was sleeping in.
Yes.
Yeah.
And she's I guess that settles that. And she tosses a piece of bacon to Freaky.
Well, I mean, I don't want to assume. I have so many questions. I'll ask you on the road, but for now, if Freaky wants to tell us of, what kinds of things the people of Haven can do to, build, closer friendships with the Ravens. And we don't obviously have your ancestral connections to them, but I think we do have common interest, and I'm sure that everyone here would, look out for them as best they could and share food and in exchange for scouting and stuff if they wanted to do that. But I just don't want to presume on your connection or anything. It would just ease my heart to know that as we go forward and get farther away, and she relates like what Vig was saying and Vig's concerns, it would just make me feel better knowing that there were many far-seeing pairs of eyes working together with Haven.
So, and Frankie says, basically relates that that more or less that they're willing to do that the Ravens are willing to do that, especially because that the Ravens had, and you remember actually, you don't remember this, but Inga, who was there too, would remember that Karun had mentioned that the Ravens had been a little concerned when Haven was established because they didn't know who these people were, but then had begun to see not only that there were a few dwarves there, but also that there is just this general sense that Haven has conducted itself quite well, that it seems to welcome in people, which seemed very unlike most mortal races that it knew. They were like, the dwarves, they've always thought of the dwarves as being kind of suspicious towards other races. Elves stick to themselves. Humans, are often suspicious of others. And so having an opportunity to see people coming together in this one place was sort of surprising to them. And so they are willing to do, more sort of scouting about with the Ravens that are young and strong of wing, and are willing to do that. And also, of course, Freki heard all of the stuff that was said by Karun about the, the fact that Inga has agreed to do this thing for them. And so I don't know, has Inga related, did you say, Inga, that you related that part of things to the river? Because if so, then that's fine. If not, then Freki would probably just say, like, Inga has made clear that there are connections with the Ravens, basically, or
like Inga would put all cards on the table.
Okay.
Basically.
So yeah, basically, like, they, since you know that already, then the Ravens are certainly willing to be able to, look far and wide.
And River is like extremely into helping Inga fulfill that revengeance, as I am insisting on calling it.
Yes.
Revengeance. I'm making it happen.
I love it.
So yeah.
So okay. The last thing I would say just before all of you leave, River, is that Ash comes to you and embraces you and says, I know you must be off again, my love, but remember, we are here and growing stronger all the time, and we'll be here when you return, sooner rather than later, I hope. I wish I could leave behind and just... She shakes her head. She says, but they need me here right now. And
River takes off a leather cuff that she has, that she's always had with her from Rosgobel. It's something that her mother embroidered with. And embroidering on leather is quite laborious and difficult and stuff. But it's something that it means a great deal to her. And she takes it off and she offers it to Ash, and she says, I want you to keep this for me, if you will. I'd like to think of you having it while I'm away, and I will come back for it. And you, always.
And she sort of puts it on and looks at it, and then puts her hand on it and says, see that you do. See that you do. And then gives you one more sort of tight embrace, and then turns around and kind of and is like walking back and like, sort of issuing commands and, like, all right, let's get ready to do this, or whatever the latest drill that they have that's set up. And as the four of you ride off from Haven, you can see not only the smoke rising from the forges, but also the clank, clank sound of work being done again at the blacksmith. The party makes its way with fairly quick speed, I would say, over the next few days. It's probably another 2.5 days or so before arriving at the Iron Hills. And when you return to this place, I am curious. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but I'm curious, Inga, about your reaction upon seeing the Iron Hills again and returning to the Iron Hills here, if you have any. You don't have to, but I'm just curious because.
Yeah, like Inge is like usually when like we're traveling, like Inge is like quite chatty and sings songs and blah blah blah. But like as soon like as like the Iron Hills like well, I wouldn't say like roll over the horizon because you can probably see them like all the way from like Mirkwood. But like once they like start to draw close, like Inge gets like tired, quieter and quieter, and yeah, just like seems like something is like putting a weight on her, so to speak.
In a noticeable way for others, you think?
Yeah, like not like if people know her, then they would like.
Okay.
River will definitely like interrogate that and just kind of like sidle up to her as they're riding, right? Like they are.
Yes.
Yeah. And she'll say, she'll remember. Actually, River remembers, and we'll say that she'll say like she remembers that when they were heading towards Roscabel for the first time, and she hadn't been there in a long time, that she also had this mounting sense of dread at returning, and so she just kind of starts riding next to Inga and says, It seems like as the mountains get closer, your heart gets heavier. What's wrong, Inga?
Well, I haven't been here in quite some time now. Let's just say the last time I left from here was right after our people had regained the Erebor.
So, are you worried about something, or is it just remembering how long it's been?
It's more about meeting people. I'm gonna have to make some visits when I arrive, I suppose. Visit Corey's family.
Have you not spoken to them since leaving?
I've written a few letters in the first few years. Like while I was staying at the Erebor, but like it became less and less, and like since I then set back on the road, no letters. Not really.
You have been working very hard to make the world a better place for everyone. I'd hope they could understand that. But I also know what it's like to dread seeing family that you haven't seen in some time. And she kind of like leans her head slightly on her horse, but like leans her head slightly towards Inga. Says, I just want you to know, like, I'm here for you. If you want to talk or if you don't.
Just not really a whole lot to talk about, I suppose. It's just weird. This is a weird situation.
Why not? Would you want to tell me about them? You don't have to actually do this, but like, but Erebor's like, I'd love to know more about them, about Corey, if you want to.
Yeah, I mean, I'll gladly tell you about them, and like, then like during the rest of the way, like Inga starts to tell her about the time she lived there, how she came to live there in the first place, because she moved in with her husband's family back when they got married, who were at the Iron Hills, and then lived there until the Battle of Five Armies, basically, or like once like the messages came in of like who all died, including her husband. So and like what life there was like, basically. And then how she left again.
Bolo was listening intently at this point, because he's kind of interested in like the sort of the threads that all of us led before coming together, and like the sort of the
Are we all together?
that we've been creating. Oh, I thought we were all together on the journey to Iron Hills. No,
I thought we were all meeting there, but I could be totally wrong. I don't know.
Oh.
Well, no, I think you would have caught up by this point, because remember that was, they were making their way out to the east. So I think they probably would have caught up to you either late in Haven or like within the last few hours, probably, because you were not riding super, super fast. So yeah,
that's all good.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah. Anyway, so I'm just listening intently. Very curious about it.
And like the general vibe you get like from Inge, that like certain things like she tells about, like she has very, very fond memories of it. Like some other things, it's like you can like hear like her voice changing, like how you like sometimes get like a lump in your throat when like something really upsets you, but you really do not want to cry about it.
Yeah.
Like that happens with a few of the things she mentions, and like where she curiously does not go into further detail about them and quickly changes the topic to something more pleasant.
Whenever a moment like that happens, River, not unlike her namesake, sort of deftly sort of weaves around the thing and takes it to somewhere else, and we'll ask a question that kind of takes it in a different direction, like in particular asking things like because they're going to open a sanctuary and stuff, and so saying, where's the best place to drink in these areas, or what's I've heard that the place that we're going to is in this spot, and are there things that I should know? And so it just kind of like tries to let it develop towards personal things, but then also pull back whenever it seems like it's too painful. But she pays attention to those things, and yeah.
Oh yeah, she also mentions them. Yeah, like you have to remember that I left when people started in general migrating to the Erebor. So I would imagine that like a lot has changed here at the Iron Hills, because a lot of refugees have been living there. Mm-hmm. And so I would imagine that there's now actually a lot of, a lot more space, so to speak. Probably a lot of empty homes now of people who just moved.
Yeah. Right.
So,
yeah.
Yeah, I want to make sure I wasn't jumping in when I shouldn't.
Yeah.
So when you arrive at the Iron Hills, you are brought very quickly to the throne room of the king. Now, I want to highlight one thing, and I'm aware that we're low on time, but I do want to highlight one thing, and then we'll set something up, and then next session we will fully get into this part of things, which is fine. This was all completely worth it. But which is that when you get to the Iron Hills, indeed, Inge, you noticed for sure, actually, that what you had predicted about it being, there being a sort of bigger space, a lot of things have been done with the place, so to speak. You notice that that's true. You also notice something which is a little more troubling, though, and that is that it feels to you like the forges here are particularly active. Now, the forges in Erebor, in the Lonely Mountain, there are several, obviously there are a number of them, but they're all sort of centrally located for the most part. There are obviously, every dwarf worth their salt has their own individual forge, but I mean like the big, massive, we use this to build weapons of war type of thing, is in one sort of central chamber. And in fact, you all spent some time in that chamber when you were fighting off this attack against it some sessions ago. But here in the Iron Hills, there's not one central mountain that is the only place. And so everywhere you look, up and down the mountain ranges, Inga, everywhere you can see, there is smoke rising from various places, as if the forges are all alit at the same time. And that strikes you as odd. That's normally what
Inga
you do.
picks up on that and gets
It's like
quite
a war
mad
posture.
about this.
Yeah.
It's not like she's immediately going out to start shit, but she is very vocal about it to the others in the company. Is warmongers, and I can't think of the English word for this. What's the English word for Spalter? Like in Monty Python's Life of Brian, like the whole thing with like the different rebel groups.
Yeah, splitters.
Faction?
Yeah,
splitters.
Splitters.
That's the term they use. Okay,
the
because I
Judean
have not
People's
seen the
Front,
movie in
not
English.
the People's Front, Judea, splitters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically, called some splitters.
But it strikes you, and I mean, for those of you who have not been to the Iron Hills, which is everybody but Inga, this reminds you of sort of like what would happen if you took the Lonely Mountain and then kind of reduced it in size slightly and split it to various different places. So there's, many, many dwarves, and you notice many of the mountains going. And as you're sort of led into the main halls that lead down to King Dane, you can notice that a lot of the dwarves, as opposed to Erebor, where you were given respect, everybody, has a friendly word for you, that is not the feel you get at the Iron Hills. They don't, obviously, they're not impolite to you, but they are very grim. And as you pass by, you can just sort of feel a little bit of the tension as you're walking by them, until you finally end up here, marked in the hall of King Dane, who sits upon his throne. Now, you have met Dane before, but Dane looks to be, in fact, you met him not all that long ago, but Dane looks to be very, very serious in his expression, which for Dane, who is never exactly jolly, that's saying something. When you see him, he immediately acknowledges all of you and says, "Thane Inga Homefinder, daughter of Ida, and Thane Tawny Bear, dwarf friend. And of course, you're known to us both, the River Woodsman of Roscabel and Bolibras, halfling of the Shire. Welcome." And kind of bows his head. And he's got his two guards flanked. Now, his throne room at the Lonely Mountain, frankly, looks much more kind of formal. This feels very much like a throne you would set up in a camp of war. And when when he sort of greets all of you, he says, "I trust that your journey was not over difficult."
No. River takes it upon herself to bow and say, "No, the journey was very smooth, thank you."
And he nods and he says, "That is good. I'm sorry to have summoned you here and not to have seen you in my own throne room in the Lonely Mountain. But I've had to come back here because of some of the rumors that I've heard. And some of those rumors, I'm afraid, are true. I must ask your assistance and help. And perhaps I wouldn't do so normally, going to those who are not all dwarves. But you are and have proven yourselves to be friends of dwarves on more than one occasion. Not most and not the least for what you've had of recent times." And he sort of, his expression softens slightly for a moment. And then he says, "Travelers in the lands north of Erebor have reported seeing wisps of smoke on the distant horizon. Campfires, perhaps, they thought. But the next year, the smoke plumes were darker and larger and fouler like the grumblings of a volcano. I'd heard rumors that perhaps an unmentionable thing had returned to the north, but they were unsubstantiated by any proof, and I tried to pay no attention to them. But I could not sleep easily, and I began to dream. Smoke against the winter sky, and then darkness. I consulted my sages, learned men and women steeped in dragon lore. I spoke to alchemists and hunters from Dale, who dared to hunt the young and bestial cold drakes out in the waste, the ones that eventually would become larger worms that we would have to deal with. I even thought that I would speak to the elves, and, while also trying to deal with the battles between men and dwarves, I tried to find some elves whose memory reached back into the elder days before the first dragon arose. I even sought the council of passing wizards. Gandalf and I spoke of this not long ago. All of us agreed that sleeping dragons are best left alone. But dragon fire, there's no consensus. It's said that the fire of dragons was placed in them by the enemy, or that dragons draw strength from gold, or that the enemy made different breeds of dragons. But not even Gandalf could assure me that a dragon's fire couldn't grow in strength, or that a cold drake could not set its breath alight in time. You yourselves have dealt with one such dragon. At the time, you said you had to do it. It was the only way to ensure freedom from the North and the defeating of the Gibbet King. But now his fires have waxed. If it is that same dragon, he has become a risk. And so I've come to you. Dragons, all of them, will eventually grow large enough that they will come and find what they need, and will take it from us, as happened to us in the elder days. And that must be stopped. I need you, my friends, to hunt down a dragon. And that's where we will bring our session to a close.
Oh no! But I love Raynor! I don't want to hunt him! He's so cool! But,
he's cool, but let's be clear. I mean, you dealt with him the way you dealt with a hurricane. Like, you managed, but then you were like, all right, good, thanks for having us, you know, and they were like, get the hell out of Dodge. Don't you have a harp to get, River? I'm sure it'll be fine.
No. I don't want to go back to the waste. You
certainly can feel free to tell King to go, you know, to go stick it in his ear and be like, but what if we like dragons? I'm sorry, what? But anyway, we'll have a chance to talk more about this because we're going to do like a formal audience check and all that, but we will do that in our next session because we ended up taking longer than I thought we would in the fellowship phase, which was no problem because it was awesome and I loved it. So we've got dragons to consider. We will see. I want to start, as always, on the bottom column. I'll try to do this in the right order this time. I'll start with River. Amal, I know you didn't have, there wasn't as much here because we were spending more time with Bolo and Tani on this first part because we had spent more time with you folks before. But I thought it was really interesting to see not only obviously your interactions with Ash, but with Vig. And the interaction then followed up with Inga was interesting because there was this sense of sort of carefully trying to gather information without being hurtful, you know, and without being cruel. And what I love about the fact that we are now on day 35 of, you know, this campaign, and obviously 3 of you anyway spent a lot of time before that with Wilderland, is you've really had a chance to develop these relationships where this is really the care you would take with a close friend. And so I'm curious, I thought it was fun to see that, and I was curious about how you felt about those interactions, and then also what you thought about the session in general and where folks will find you next.
Yeah, no, I super love that. I extremely enjoyed Tanya and Bolo meeting Bilbo. That was super, super delightful. But for River and Inga, the thing, like, River is interested in the Iron Hills to the extent that, like, they're an extension of Inga, basically. So, like, she is very caring and very protective of Inga specifically, and protective of Inga in the sense of, like, obviously, they fight together in battle and stuff, but she is very protective of Inga's like inner life and feelings, because she keeps on putting herself in danger from her unprocessed emotion. Terms which River would not use. But
she needs therapy, but she can't get none.
yeah, exactly. Better to fight a dragon than get therapy, etc.
I mean,
but
valid.
yeah. So River is just very like protective of her and wants, so her asking questions about the Iron Hills and stuff is like, first of all, just to like hearing a talk about herself and her past and stuff, and second to be like, oh well, what is this place that we're going to and stuff. But she is she just cares about her friend, and she wants her to like she wants her to feel better. So like her primary interest is in making her feel better if she looks like she is down, but partly because like the party minus Bolo has seen River be in a state of like high anxiety about returning to Rosgobel for the first time ages ago, and her doom was still upon her and stuff. So this was so anyway, I really enjoyed that. I also really enjoyed the thought of Haven getting to like be friends with ravens. I think that would be very cool.
Haven and Raven. The Haven-Raven connection.
The Raven.
Raven.
Oh my god! The Haven Ravens! That totally sounds like a sports team.
Yes.
The Haven Ravens. Top of the league in Wilderland.
God, the Ravens at Midway, I think would be super cool. Oh.
You're just doing this so you can come up with another baseball team. So you could be like, the Ravens at Midway, and suddenly you insert it. Because there's no baseball going on right now either, so you're just like, haha, we have it all to ourselves.
If you give me, like, a stick's worth of incentive, River is going to invent baseball for Middle Earth. All right.
I totally would love to see a sporting event that involve. I will 1,000%. We'll just call it like the sporting phase, and it's just like, I mean, we did that actually in Dale. There was the whole series of contests, like the archery contest and stuff like that you did.
Right.
So yeah, it's possible.
Yeah, no, River will just like she'll. You know what? I'm not going to say a word about it because it's going to happen at some point, and you will be blindsided by it.
I'm
will
excited.
Take you totally by surprise, and you will remember this conversation, and it's gonna rock.
I will. I look forward to these being blindsided in this way.
Like
anyway,
pat to the temple.
yes. So anyway, super loved that. I love the interactions with Veg and Ash always, and yeah. So I was just I have to run, but I do want to say in terms of where people can find me and stuff, here, but also I am going to have an event next Tuesday night, so the 15th at 7 p.m. I'm going to be in conversation with Charlie Jane Anders about the new edition of Ursula K. Le Guin's Worlds of Exile and Illusion, which I wrote the introduction to. So that is going to be a cool and that book comes out a week today. So I'm excited about that. You can also, actually, why don't I just do this? You can read an excerpt of my introduction for free
nice.
On LitHub, which is very exciting to me because it's like my LitHub debut, and I've long loved LitHub, and it's really, really cool to have this there. So you can read that's part of my introduction to...
I read that. That was very nicely done, by the way, Mel. I'm just about to start Wizard of Earthsea with my class, and
That's awesome.
I mean, who doesn't admire Ursula Le Guin? But I was really interested in the way that you came around to it. So
thank you so
good
much.
Stuff.
Yeah, there's more about the actual like books themselves in the full introduction, but this one made a kind of neat circle, just like with this excerpt. So I was very happy to see it there. The one other thing I want to say is that my co-author, Max Gladstone, co-authoring of Time War, has a new book out today called Last Exit, and it is phenomenal. And I just want to highly, highly recommend that people check it out. It's so great. It's like it's a road novel. It is scary and wonderful and epic and about feelings and about being in one's 30s, I think. And it's just wonderful. So I just wanted to also link that. And that's basically it. And then I have got to run. But yeah, that's basically me. So I'll just drop this into the chat. Boing.
That's good stuff. Thanks, Amal. And just as you're leaving, I'll mention quickly that Terry and I believe next Tuesday are going to be doing our Gamebook illustration stream, and the week after that, the 22nd, is our second session of this. So I'm just reminding you also, Amal, that that's 2 weeks from now is when we're back. So
yes, of course.
for this, good stuff. And Shaq, we get some love from Amal as she heads out, and thank you, Amal, and good stuff today. And we will see you soon. Are you able to leave the cam up just for?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Bye for now.
Bye.
Moving right on up the line, I will this time go in the right order for your benefit. So I guess actually this would be you next, Terry. It would be normally when I would do this.
Yes.
So yeah, I mean, obviously this whole series of adventures, I don't think anyone could reasonably say that Inga has not had a whole lot of dwarf stuff going on, dwarf material. There's been a lot of it, but I was really interested, and I'm going to be interested in more about this idea of the Iron Hills. The idea that Inga has sort of an understanding, obviously, of dwarven culture and the differences between, say, the dwarves of the Lonely Mountain and the dwarves of the Iron Hills and so forth, but also that there is frustration about what this war posture is, and that war posture may be more associated with the dragon, or it might also be associated with, like we gotta the whole like dwarves of the dwarves stuff that you've all been grappling with, that type of stuff. But whatever it is, it's going to be interesting to me to see how a native, of this place responds to it upon the return, and about how she deals with those things. And of course her own emotions for her own personal losses and all that stuff, which I think we got a little bit of at the end there. How did you feel about today? Where will the fine folks find you next?
Well, I mean, like, sadly I was today a bit out of it because work on the house is very exhausting, and my blood pressure can't keep up with it. So I'm just most of the time these days. But yes, very excited for things to come. But yeah, back to the wastes.
Yeah. It's like going back to the gray all the time. Everyone's like, no, in Eberron. Like very similar feeling. Yeah. Yeah.
Oof. So yeah, also I'm very excited to see how our newest addition to the party is gonna be, Freki. Which I think is such a beautiful name. So much fun to say, Freki.
Freki. It is pretty.
Yeah, Freki. Like, I just like rolling my R's because my boyfriend can't do that, so I'd like to flex on him with that.
I'm actually just putting together the section that's literally just the menagerie of Freki the Raven,
Yes.
Lilimon the horse, obviously Stone. Only Stone gets into initiative until later on when Freki has to avoid certain death. I mean, when Freki is just flying around and is fine, just like Lilimon. Terry's like bitter, angry. No.
No, I was just reading chat right now with
the
garlic
flex
tofu
about it.
response.
Yes.
So yeah, people can find me here on some Tuesdays. Now hopefully more regularly, once a month, for Gamebook illustration streams.
Next Tuesday with all luck, hopefully.
Where I draw pretty little trees, as I did last time.
That's right. It was the Bob Ross
I did
stream.
landscape drawings, paintings, literally. And other than that, people can follow me on Twitter and on Instagram at Taritoons, where I occasionally post art thingies and sometimes other thingies. So, yeah, that's me.
Good stuff. Always a pleasure,
Wow,
Terry.
I really need to eat something.
That's fine. I get it. I know I understand the feeling. But always a pleasure, Terry. Also,
okay, no, but I'm like every doctor always told me, no, you need to like exercise more and then you will feel more fit. And I'm like, I went cycling today, and I feel
you just need to be fed, is what it sounds like to me. You need to eat.
Oh yeah.
especially after the discussions of food today. That needs to happen.
Oh yeah, that did not help. That really not help.
My bad. Thanks, Terry. I'll see you hopefully next week. Moving right along. Brad, really lovely role play. I have not had the opportunity in this campaign to do a lot with sort of halfling versus halfling fight, Hobbit sort of discussions. We've had a lot of, except for ones that kind of frustrate the hell out of Tawny Bear, in those cases. But other than the annoying halflings, I haven't had a chance to do that. And so having a chance to go back to the Shire, be with Bilbo in Bag End was like a great pleasure. Like I just had a big smile on my face getting a chance to do that because, of course, Bilbo sees obviously quite a bit of himself in Bolo. And this, of course, substantially predates Frodo's emergence on the scene as, I assume, I'm thinking about it, I guess Frodo would be alive now, but he would be not very old, right, at this point.
Mm-hmm.
There wouldn't be any kind of a connection built up. So in a way, think of Bolo as a trial run for Frodo. No, I'm just kidding. But, so obviously Bilbo, really connects with that. And having the chance to see that and having you and Tawny together as like this sort of traveling companion group that went off to the Shire was really a lot of fun to do. And I think you played Bolo's reactions to that quite well. How did you feel about today's session? Where will the fine folks find you next?
Yeah, it was super duper fun. Just as as a Middle Earth fan, I was geeking out about being in the Shire and being in Bag End and talking with Bilbo and just traveling in that land and stuff. It was really, really fun. And just from Bolo's perspective, I liked that it the gift and everything and the journey itself sort of touched on his whole journey from the point before which he met the group, but then when he met them and all the things that he's done since then, and the darkness versus light, and possessions versus friendships and relationships, and that sort of thing, and tying in history through those things too, and just kind of it wove through all of the things that Bolo had experienced and will experience, in the future and stuff. He's evolving and things, and so it was neat to see that, it's not a completed arc, but it's one of his arcs. I think that we've sort of seen from beginning to, to this point, and we're starting something new for him now.
Yes.
So just really fun to see that all come about and play it out and stuff. So, really fun for me. And I hadn't really realized it before, but this is 3 months since I've been playing. We missed him last month. I missed January because of kitchen stuff, and then we had the holidays, so it was like early December the last time I played and stuff. So it was just fun to get back into
feels good to have you back into it. I agree.
So really fun. Looking forward to seeing where we go next. Bolo has not seen a dragon, so it'll be interesting.
Well, the way it's going to be set up is you're going to have to sneak down. You're going to have a riddle contest with him. Greg, are you really going to play out every single Hobbit part will be redone completely? But it'll be a good time. Do you want to talk just briefly about Absinthe and about people finding, because I
guess Absinthe would have maybe just come out, but Absinthe is a reimagined 1920s, late 20s Chicago, in which it's a sci-fi-ish novel, Deco punk style, lots of callbacks to Art Deco and. But the main story is a mystery of a young World War I soldier who discovers, and this war was fought on American soil, not on European soil for very specific reasons.
What?
And we learn early on
that
he has amnesia around that time of the war. And as he begins unlocking memories after a mysterious visit with the current president, his former commander, more of his memories become unlocked, and he discovers he was part of an experiment during the war that was meant to link his squad in very intimate ways psychically, and his subsequent loss of those memories is related to what the president and his inner circle are doing. And it becomes a race against time for Liam to discover what happened back during the war and to use that information before the government forces can unleash the things that they're trying to unleash. It's kind of a mystery that turns into sort of this race against time and a bit of a thriller-esque ride towards the end. So I hope people will check it out.
Very good stuff. Yeah, Brett is quite a gifted writer, as I've said many times, and so I am looking forward to seeing it. Also, a certain prominent author of Absinthe may or may not have written a blurb for my upcoming book, Greyshade, that is returning as part of the Greyshade Kickstarter.
Cool.
That is launching. Yeah, I don't know if I think I've told you a little bit about that, but basically it's relaunching in a revised edition, and it is going to lead up to this Kickstarter that I'm running that has a tabletop role-playing game and the second 2 books in that series. So yeah, so that's anyway.
That's great.
I just bring that. I mentioned that, but it was good to have you back. We've been waiting to we want to make sure Brad's here so we can have the whole team, and it was great to have the whole crew. So welcome back and continued good luck with everything, and we'll see you in a couple weeks. And last but certainly not least, Tren, it was also really nice too, and I know you're tired as always for these sessions, but it was nice to see Tani get a chance to kind of experience things where, obviously Bolo had come and hung out with Tani, and we had thought a lot about that, but the idea of Tani going in the other direction wasn't something I thought about as much. And so having Tani go and, be there as this sort of giant among the halflings, but also getting a chance to see Tani, who has a very different reaction to Bilbo, because Bilbo's a very different kind of hobbit, right? He's not about himself as much. He's eccentric, but that's not the same thing. And it was lovely to see the kind of interactions even about, obviously you're going to connect along the level of food and honey and all that kind of stuff. But, the fact that Bilbo is more worldly than your standard hobbit. He's met Bjorn. He knows Bjorn. Obviously Bjorn respects him. And it was lovely to kind of see that role play kind of play itself out in the process of watching, obviously, Bolo's tale, which, kind of took center stage for a lot of it. How did you feel about today's session? Where will the fine folks find you next?
It was pretty much everything that I was hoping it would be. And I'm really glad that we decided to carry on to the to the Shire and back again.
Yes.
You went there, didn't you?
It seems that way. It was a lot of fun, and I had a feeling that it would. I imagine Tani sleeping in a bed, being a little bit surprised that there would be a bed large enough for him, and getting comfortable in that. And when he finally wakes up, being like, "Oh, right, this is sized for me," and then standing up, big bang.
Yeah, exactly. The whole room is full. Yes. Oh man.
And then jumping forward to Haven and Vig saying that if any of us need armor or weapons tended or whatnot, that he'll. I just imagine Tani handing him this new staff and not telling him anything about it, and he'd be like, "All right, fine, just throwing it in the fire and using it to fix everybody else's." No.
Oh, thanks for the extra kindling then.
Yeah, exactly. All right, I can make this into charcoal. Yeah, no problem. It's like, oh no, oh crap. All right, I got to go back to Beorn and get him to give me another one. Bug. Yeah, it was just. I really enjoyed today. I thought it was. Perhaps unfortunately very relaxing.
Yeah, sorry.
So I was just like,
that'll change next session, by the way. No more relaxing.
And bread.
Yeah,
it's true. Yeah, no more relaxing next week.
Yeah, there was a point where I was almost out. I could feel myself starting to slide out of the chair, which started to wake me up. And then one of you said Tawny, and I was like, I was like, wait a minute. Oh. No, okay, not talking to me, talking about. All right, fine. Ooh, okay, I need to shift my position a little bit. I'm drifting, but yeah, it was good. Of course, my housemate's like, hey, because he's got a flat tire in his car, so he's borrowing my car. He's going to Togo's to get us some sandwiches, and I'm going to be unconscious by the time he gets here with it.
Yeah,
and it's just going to be like, it'll be fine. Just put it in the fridge, and yeah. As for where people will see me next, it'll probably be right back here. Not this weekend, but next weekend for more Erebor. No, Eberron.
Yes. Even the same kind of letters too. It's really
yeah. Thank you.
But yes, for Eberron, and then back here after that for 2nd of AIME.
Following Tuesday, yep. And that whole thing, and then maybe, who knows? Maybe
we get a No Man's Sky in. Possibly, you never can tell, chat. That's one of those like, waha, when you least expect it. No Man's Sky. Mm-hmm. Assuming we can actually get it to work, but yeah.
no, it worked. I've figured out what happened. They just changed some stuff. You don't get the big capital ship freighters on the 5th warp. You get it on the 20th. So
right. No, it's the base that I'm worried about now. It's about like that thing.
No, that's going to be fine.
No. Okay,
it'll be.
I believe you completely. It's totally true. But it was great stuff. And of course, you will see Tren, or rather hear Tren, as part of our Gray Shade Kickstarter coming not that long from now, doing the audiobook. And
Wait,
I am
what?
very excited. What are you talking about?
I think that's the first time I've said that out loud.
I know, exactly. Just in chat. But great stuff today, everyone. I'm glad that we were able to get back together. I know we were, for various reasons, people were kind of like building themselves back up, /sleepy or whatever. But we will be back here with Bells on in 2 weeks. I will see Tren soon, either for No Man's Sky thing or definitely for Eberron. I'll see Terry for Gamebook Illustration next week. And I will see Brad back here in 2 weeks for more of Adventures in Middle-earth. Chat, can we get some love for the wonderful players? Players, thank you for being awesome. Great play today. I really enjoyed it.
Bye, everybody.
And I will see you folks soon. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.
All right. I need a bassist, yes. So that was great. I really, really enjoyed that. Again, just as Brad said about like geeking out, right? About the experience of talking to Bilbo. I was geeking out about getting the chance to role play that. I mean, there's just something so incredibly comforting and wholesome about those encounters, honestly. Like it was just great. A great experience to be able to see part of it. And I really enjoyed it. And my hope is that we will, there's a reason that I have that Gandalf guy right there, right? I mean, Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. Hobbit is my favorite book. Lord of the Rings are enormously important to me, and so it was great. And there will be a lot of tension next week. I know this was more sort of planning and setting things up, but we got a lot of stuff coming because we got to hunt us a dragon, people. So King Dane is hunting down a dragon, and oh boy, that's going to be time to hunt a dragon. So it's going to be fun. But if you liked what you saw and heard today, I hope you will consider following the channel. I hope you will check out our YouTube as well with !ArvTube, our Discord with !ArvCord. Oh, thank you, Live Suing. Thank you, Echo. And yeah, I was reading some of that, by the way, Echo, and I've already talked to you about this separately off stream. But again, I will reiterate that, we're here for you, and I hope, you can just hang in there. As we've said, it's really important to hang in there and recognize that there are people that care about you, and that there are people who care about each other in this community more generally. And that is always, I think, a strength of ours, and it's a positive thing that we can hopefully bring to our own individual lives and circumstances as well. !ArvTube, as I said, ! Please subscribe to me over on my YouTube channel if you haven't done so. That really does help. We're trying to, again, monetize that channel because it will really help things here, and will give us more flexibility. So we have 810 at last check. We need another 190. That's it, 190 subs. So please go over there and sub on the YouTube channel if you haven't done so already. It's free for you, but it really helps us. So thank you if you've already done that. If not, please consider doing so. Please consider checking out our Discord as well. We've had a number more people join over on that Discord channel. We're now closing in on, I think, 250 members now. So that is a very strong Discord channel, which continues to go great guns. So let's keep that up. !ArvCord for that. And the Twitter is !ArvTweets. It would not, Dragon, sadly. !ArvTweets. Yeah, I don't understand. It was weird, Echo. It was really strange. And the thing is, I can't even find the 30 seconds on YouTube. They just did it, and they're like, okay, we're all good. And I'm like, okay. It may be also that Sony recognizes this is kind of silly, because it wasn't a copyright strike. It was just, demonetized because of whatever. And I was like, okay. Anyway. But anyway, !ArvCord, and then again, on the financial side, the website for this, !ARV tweets. That's where I was for my Twitter. And then again, website is arvaneleron.com. On the financial side, !ARV shop is my merchandise area. !ARV Treon is the Patreon right there. 20 patrons, $198 per month. Really trying to get that above 200 again, because it'll make a big difference for us as we move that number higher. And you can get cool stuff, including inspirations to help the players. We did have an inspiration used today. And then we've got ! ARV Treon, I mentioned that. And then subbing to the channel, as several of you did today, resubbing to the channel or gift subs. Those are all really good too. Gives you custom sub badges and emotes to use everywhere across Twitch, and also lets you get inspirations if you support at a high enough tier to support our tabletop players. So that's always good as well. And on the publishing side, ! Icarus for my Icarus graphic novel, ! Library for my Tales and Tomes in the Forbidden Library, my 5e adventure and sourcebook from Alligator Alley Entertainment, and both Alligator Alley and Athos are working on that aforementioned Greyshade Kickstarter, ! Greyshade KS for details about that. And more of that to come. Again, you'll hear a lot more about Greyshade in the months to come. And last but certainly not least, ! BLM, Black Lives Matter, very important to affirm and assert the significance of Black lives. ! Help Now, which is the World Health Organization page on suicide prevention. Very important to reach out to others when you need help and to reach out to others when they need help as well. And of course, ! Ukraine, to support the fine people of Ukraine who are trying to deal with unimaginable horror right now, an invasion. We all need to stick together right now, folks, and doing so in big and small ways is the way that we can make a real difference in moving things forward in that regard. So ! Ukraine for more details about that. Otherwise, no raid today because I'm going to be over at GOGCOM in about a half hour, where I'm going to be finally finishing up Solasta Crown of the Magister. We'll finally come to an end today. And it's been great. I've had so much fun with that game. And then we're going to be starting a new game, so we'll see if I actually am able to start that new game today. I might be able to, depending on how long it takes to finish Solasta. We will see. But that's going to be Pen and Pixels at the top of the hour. And then again, we're off Wednesday, off Thursday. Friday night, we'll be back here for Esper Genesis, as that campaign is moving into its final stages. We are in the final section called Aftermath, after which we're going to be launching the new Esper Genesis related campaign in June, as you folks know, with Expedition from the Mysterious Peaks. So it's going to be a good time. Can't wait. And I will see you lovely folks soon. Oh, and then Saturday is Metroid Prime. Thank you to my wonderful viewers today. Thanks to my wonderful mods, Dragon Spear, Triffity Mats, best in the business, as I've said. Thank you to my wonderful subscribers and Patreon supporters, Dragon Spear, Triffid, Echo, Effect Life, Big Boss, Crit Twitch, Garlic Tofu, Live Suing, and Trendane. Thank you, thank you. And thank you as well to my wonderful viewers. Thank you to Five Now. Thank you to Abjuri. Thank you to Amal and Matar. Thank you to Boss. Thank you to Gigafrost, Hillness, who is a sub, and so is Mrs. Dunsel and Nonstop, so I don't know why they're not listed there, but whatever. Thank you to Philip, to Roxy, to Seal USUS. Thank you to Tema Shikasaka and the Sparkly Wallflower. And thank you so much. Thank you for the follow as well. Thanks, everybody. And great work especially thanks to my wonderful players, The Adventures in Middle-earth and Dwanat's crew. Thank you to Trendane Sparks. Thank you to Brad Bollier. Thank you to Amal Elmatar. And thank you to Terry Tunes for being awesome. I will see you folks over on GOGCOM in about 25 minutes or so. Otherwise, thanks, everyone. And I will catch all you lovely folks soon. Until next time, be good to each other. Bye for now.